Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. The Committee on Education will now be called to order. I understand that state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of all remote public hearings as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We're using the Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of City Council are included in the public hearing notices that are published daily in the Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings. It could also be found on our website, philacouncil.com. I will note that the hour has come. The clerk, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance will please indicate that you're present, and when your name is called, also please say a few brief words so that your image will be displayed on the screen as you speak.
Councilmember Quinones Sanchez.
Present.
Councilmember Gim. Councilmember Brooks. Councilmember O. Councilmember Squilla.
I am present.
Councilmember Thomas.
Present.
Councilmember Gautier.
Good afternoon, everyone. Present.
And I believe we're also joined by Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Having established quorum, being present, the hearing is called to order. This is the public hearing on the Committee on Education regarding resolutions 200395 and 200430. Will the clerk please read the title of both bills, and then I will introduce the bill's sponsor for brief remarks before we get started.
Resolution number 200395, authorizing the Committee on Education to conduct hearings to investigate curriculum realignment opportunities within the School District of Philadelphia to ensure preparedness for post-COVID-19 career opportunities based upon Philadelphia's labor market forecast. Resolution number 200430, authorizing the Committee on Education to conduct hearings exploring the benefits of the School District of Philadelphia mandating conflict resolution training at all curriculum levels.
Thank you. Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have here today, everyone who's been invited to this meeting to testify should be aware that the public hearing is being recorded. Because the public hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Before I ask the clerk to call the first panel, I want to recognize the sponsor of today's two resolutions, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Madam Chair, for this hearing this afternoon. And thank you to all the members of the Education Committee for your indulgence, and to all the witnesses who have joined us to offer your perspective on these issues. I wanted to briefly talk about why both of these issues will be vitally important to the City of Philadelphia, particularly as we continue to move through COVID-19 and all of the multiple crises that we continue to face, but additionally, how we need to think about all of these issues within our recovery. So I want to thank you again, Madam Chair, for allowing us to have this hearing today. We really want to focus on, particularly for the curriculum realignment resolution, around how we create those multiple pathways to sustainable, fulfilling, family supporting, and sustaining career opportunities that will help to lift so many many, not only of our young people, but residents out of poverty, and ensure that our economy can rebound as we move through COVID-19. During the first wave of COVID-19, initial unemployment claims rose 1,273% in our city. And this was driven predominantly by young people, with people under the age of 34 accounting for 51.4% of those initial claims. And nearly 68% of initial claimants who filed during the period of March 15 through May 31st reported an educational attainment level below a high school diploma or its equivalent. So while we know and understand that it's important to ensure that our students are graduating, with pathways towards both college and career, we also must focus on the students who are seeking out technical education to ensure that those programs really align with what we are seeing for the future of our job market and for the jobs that exist today, but also for the jobs that we know will exist in the future and what our new normal in our labor market here in Philadelphia will look like. But also the new trendy term of skills-based hiring and some of the other initiatives that we've been hearing about more recently. And finally, as a former teacher and as a parent of young people in the school district, but also a lifelong resident of the city of Philadelphia, I keenly understand and am aware of the data we are seeing relative to violent incidents that include young people. And one such incident that I read about that I was most disturbed about was a few months ago with two 17-year-olds who got into a conflict that resulted in the use of guns over a cell phone. So it's more important than ever that we help our young people understand how they can adequately resolve conflict without having to utilize weapons. And one thing I tried to do is help our young people understand it and bring it to their level and why this is important. And one of my favorite African-American philosophers, Jay-Z, stated, we're all screwed because we never had the tools. So we need the tools to be able to adequately resolve conflict and help our young people learn these skills throughout the duration of their educational career. So I just want to thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing us to have this hearing. I know we have a lot of witnesses, and I want to implore all of you, know that I've been reading all of your testimony, even the testimony that we received today. Over the last hour, I was able to read a number of the testimonies that have been submitted earlier. So we have read your testimony. If you can ensure that you summarize your remarks so that we can get through all of the questions we have so that we can get as much information as possible for moving forward. So thank you again, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the members of the Education Committee, and I'm looking forward to hearing the testimony.
Thank you, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and I would be remiss not to shout out all of the educators who really under COVID have had to pivot in such a way to the school board, its leadership team, teachers, counselors, parents. This is an unprecedented time, and all of the hard work and going beyond the call of duty. Let us, as part of the Education Committee, let us say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I particularly want to recognize that the Committee on Education has maintained constant communication on a biweekly basis with both Dr. Height and his team, as well as Dr. Joyce Wilkerson from the board. And we've been in constant communication throughout the pandemic as we've looked at the restart, as we've looked at the rescheduling and all of those things. And I want to thank Dr. Height and Dr. Joyce and Joyce Wilkerson and others, because from day one, we always said the health professionals would lead this discussion, and they have, and we've put the safety of our children and teachers and stakeholders first. So I want to shout out all the folks. I know some of those folks will be testifying later in the hearing. Will the clerk read the names of the first panel for Resolution 200395?
Patrick Clancy, Sylvie Gallier-Howard, Michael A. Zacagny, and Catherine Wolfgang will read Sylvie's written testimony.
Thank you. Can you please state your name for the record, Mr. Clancy and begin, and then we will have Catherine Wolfgang, and then the third testimony is in writing.
Great. Thank you.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, I'm Patrick Clancy, President and CEO of Philadelphia Works. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of our organization and what we can do to assist the school district. We are the organization that is the city's Workforce Development Board. We receive all the federal and state job training funds that enable us to make investments into opportunities for both young people and adults going back to work. And I just want to point out that we have a research unit that's staffed by Meg Shope-Capel, who does an extraordinary job of analyzing all the data within our economy. And I think the things that we look at most importantly is job growth. I will tell you right now, the biggest job growth is in e-commerce/warehouse distribution. Each and every day, we're reading more and more warehouses are being filled up. We know that the Hill Coast site will also be another opportunity for warehouse distribution. So that is one opportunity that I think, from the district's perspective could be helpful. And we at the Workforce Board would be more than happy to assist. We also see changes in healthcare, IT, mental health, and social work. We also see an opportunity in automotive and HVAC. The Community College of Philadelphia, of which I'm a board member of, is doing a groundbreaking next week on a brand new facility in West Philadelphia. That will be a state-of-the-art automotive/diesel/advanced manufacturing facility. So we are poised and ready to assist in any way we can, and we look forward to being a good partner.
Ms. Wolfgang, and then we'll take any questions for the panel. I just want to recognize for the record that Councilmember Gim has joined the hearing. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Council Chair.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Councilwoman Richardson and members of the Committee on Education. My name is Catherine Wolfgang. I'm the Senior Director of Workforce Policy and Strategy in the Department of Commerce, and I'm honored today to read testimony submitted by Sylvie Gallier-Howard, Acting Director of Commerce. The Department of Commerce is working closely with Philadelphia Works, Mr. Clancy, and his great team, PIDC, our employer partners, and several local research experts to continually expand and refine our understanding of the immediate and longer-term impact of the pandemic on hiring trends across Philadelphia. While there's still a good deal of uncertainty before us, a few things are immediately clear. The pandemic is speeding up the pace of automation and increasing the importance of post-secondary education and training. Whether it be to save money or to prevent exposing frontline workers to the virus, employers are increasingly motivated to rely on technology to perform essential tasks. This means many of the entry-level, low-skilled jobs lost over the past 8 months may not be coming back, making it hard for individuals with limited skills and industry credentials to find family-sustaining work. The good news, however, is that future job growth has the potential to include a greater proportion of well-paying middle-skilled jobs that provide healthcare and other benefits and include opportunities for ongoing career advancement. To capitalize on these opportunities, Commerce and Philadelphia Works are currently investing in diverse talent pipeline development in technology and life sciences, two sectors that have strong growth and earning potential. Looking to the future, district graduates will need to develop the following to compete for these jobs. Number one, strong foundational skills in reading, math, and digital literacy. 2, baseline work readiness skills, including time management, dependability, teamwork, and workplace communication. 3, higher order thinking skills and problem-solving abilities. And 4, a plan to pursue post-secondary education and skills training aligned to their career interests. The Department of Commerce is currently working in very close partnership with the school district, Philadelphia Works, and others to build the infrastructure required to ensure students can participate in a robust array of career-connected learning opportunities that blend direct, real-world experience with rigorous and relevant classroom learning. This includes incorporating internships, job shadowing, and other forms of career exposure and work experience into the curriculum to help students gain an understanding of growing industries and workplace expectations critical to their long-term success. Achieving and sustaining Philadelphia's commitment to an equitable economic recovery requires a robust career-connected learning system to ensure all young people graduate from high school inspired to achieve their career goals and prepared for the rigor involved in earning industry-valued post-secondary credentials. In order to be successful in providing as many students as possible with quality career exposure and experience, we will need to engage as many of our employers as possible, including large corporations and small businesses. We ask for Council's partnership in reaching out to employers to ensure a robust pool of opportunities for our young people. Thank you for taking the time to explore and understand this critical issue. If you have any further questions on the future of Philadelphia's economy or how you can support our career-connected learning initiative, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and most especially to Sylvie Gallier-Howard. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Wolfgang. And before I turn it over, I want to also recognize that Council Member Brooks has also joined the hearing. Before I turn it over to our resolution sponsor, and I'm going to date myself here. I was involved in this workforce development space many, many years ago when we had school to career at the school-based level, when we have Philadelphia Workforce Development Corporation, before the PYN days. Can you, Mr. Clancy, tell me what space or at what table do all of the now new entities that work in this space, where do you all come together to discuss alignment and some of this collaboration? Is there a formal space or these are informal conversations?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So there is a formal process that the school district of Philadelphia is on our workforce board, along with representatives from the Commerce Department, and economic development generally, and businesses. So that's the more formal one. The more informal / just as important is every week we do meet with the Commerce Department and PIDC. And on occasion when we need to, we bring in PYN just to better understand what's going on. But we are totally committed to this alignment to make sure that opportunities are current and available for young people as they continue to go through their academic studies. But yeah, so we have systems in place. So that we don't miss an opportunity, especially when there's new businesses coming to town. And I think one example was the Hillco example, how we all convened very quickly to ensure that whatever was going to take place down in the refinery, that we were all connected and that we all played our specific role.
So one of the conversations we've been having is around realignment of training and credentialing, right? So what role has the Philadelphia workforce played in some of the curriculum school district realignment for credentialing folks? Because you're using Healthco as a great example, what kind of resources is your organization going to be able to put on the table to ensure the type of training folks need align with how Healthco built out? You know, I know they're in a 10-year plan, but give me some examples of what you foresee happening.
Yeah. So we are committing $1 million to the Hillco opportunity over a 2-year period. We feel comfortable that if more money is needed, we can get more money. We believe that we wanted to have Hillco and the school district and the Office of Career and Connected Learning all together so that those opportunities are one, we build them out so that people can be in both CTE programs and general programs. But we also want to do more career awareness, more job shadowing, more internships. I think the more young people see what's out there, then they can make better decisions. Because I think if we ask anybody, what do you think about a warehouse job? They may not know. It'd be very similar to asking people what they thought about advanced manufacturing. You know, these warehouses are clean. They're highly automated. You know, it's going to be more robotics, probably more and more as we continue down the technology advancement path. So we are committing $1 million for that project, but we also commit to meet very frequently with both the school district and employers. And I think the thing that we've been working on is really have more customized training with employers to really make sure they're part of the solution. Far too many times we can look at all the data, and the data can say that occupations are growing, but the real thing is, will employers hire, and will they hire in the city and in the region? So we're not just relying on data all the time. We are now making sure that data truly aligns with employers and their needs.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over. I so much appreciate Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for really making this one of the top priorities as she works through this legislative. It's great to have someone with a citywide perspective on this. As a graduate of a CTE program, this is the space I know and love, and I really look forward to conversation and collaborating with her. Councilmember?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you to Pat Clancy and the entire team at Philadelphia Works. I know we all meet very often, so I just have to say for the record, thank you to Michael Joins and to Candace Woods, who I'm in touch with multiple times throughout the week relative to some of the data and the research from Meg's department. So I just wanted to put that on the record to thank you for all the research and the tools you have provided to us to help better inform members of council on what's happening within the landscape. But I wanted to quickly ask you a question about the individuals, the 68% of folks who file for initial unemployment claims, the ones who lack high school degrees or equivalent. How is your office working and thinking about this population and around the services we can provide to help them re-enter the job market? And then on the other hand, how are we looking at how the employment field is changing as a result of COVID to better inform the efforts of the district around the type of CTE programs they have?
Yeah, two very good questions. So I'll take the first one. So we're trying to educate as many people in the city about our services, about how they can connect to the various programs that not only do we offer, but the city offers as well. Because we do think that we have to be more creative for adults who don't have a high school diploma. And one of the things we're working on is trying to set up a pilot program at UPS down at the airport to open up a GED program within the auspices of their offices. So the goal would be that individuals can go to work at UPS without a high school diploma. The goal will be that we can mirror both opportunities, go to work and also get your GED. We think, individuals that have been laid off without it are hardworking people. And so not always having the time to just dedicate to education. So we're trying to do hybrid models. The other one we're looking at is working with the community college on really integrating both the GED and the vocational skills training component together so that individuals are working on both. So we're trying to do different models. But I think the one part is just educating people about there are resources out there to help them. If they go to our website or if they go to the Career Links website, that's where people can at least start the process. And we really want to figure out, meet people where they're at, right? And I think the other part of the question is that as we look at this economy going forward, we're going to need individuals with that high school diploma. And I think the sooner we can get them on that path, the better. A lot of the jobs will be that we're looking at right now in the city or in that warehouse distribution sector. And individuals can move up those career ladders, but that first attainment of high school diploma is critical. I also would say that we know that a lot of the positions, for as long as COVID will be with us, will be sort of the front end positions, right? People on the front line of employment, whether it's home health aides, whether it's CNAs, so individuals that, we still see those positions being critically needed. The challenge is how do we ensure that individuals get the proper protections, but also the proper recognition that those positions can have career ladders. And we're trying to also blend in opportunities for people to really not just stay at a specific level, but really look upwards. One of the things we're working on, and we should be rolling out hopefully within the next couple of months, is a learning management system, an online system for city residents to participate in and actually take courses for free in various sectors. So it would be in the healthcare sector, the IT sector, entrepreneurial skills, and also social work. So we're trying to finalize some of those plans now because we think, look, not everybody has access. And I think that's the other part of the pandemic is, unfortunately, not everyone's been able to get access to the internet. For those that can and feel comfortable, we want to put out resources for them at no cost. For those that can't get to those, resources, we want them to call us at our 800 number so we can also find out how to best to help them.
Thank you so much. And one last thing I wanted to mention, because you mentioned around career ladders and creating those pathways, particularly from the low-wage industries. And I was struck by one of the reports that your office shared with us that one of the fastest low-wage industries in Philadelphia was the home health aides.
Yeah.
And I was really struck by that and have been thinking about, and my team has been exploring how we help some of those individuals move into other family supporting and sustaining careers like certified nurse and assistants, patient care techs, surgical techs, even up to LPN or RN, and really trying to make that connection because it was such a large amount of individuals, and they were primarily African American women based on the data that we received. So I definitely want to explore that more with you and look forward to working on that, because I think that's an important opportunity because of our location with the number of healthcare institutions we have in our city that we can particularly capitalize on as we move through COVID-19 and beyond. So I just wanted to again express my thanks to you and to your entire team for the work that you all do and the research and the data that helps inform the decisions we are making in City Council. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, and we're happy that we still have some workforce investment in the city. I know that in the beginning of our budget process, that was a touch and go, and so I'm glad to see Ms. Wolfgang and our Commerce Director are still committed to playing a part in facilitating workforce development. Could the clerk read the names of the next panel?
Madam Chair, point of clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Really quickly, I saw for this panel, Michael Zakagny, our HR director from the Office of Human Resources, submitted written testimony. And I just wanted to say for the record that I appreciate their work around some of the realignment for the entry-level positions that now align with some of the CTE programs at the district. That work has been happening. We've been having meetings with their office. It's at least 4 or 5 positions. So I just wanted to, for the record, thank our HR director, the Office of Human Resources, and Zakia Ali for their continued work on helping us align some of those entry-level positions like street aid with some of the programs at the district. So thank you very much.
Yes, that written testimony is on the record and available and has been circulated. Thank you very much. The next panel.
Michelle Armstrong, Alexandria Robinson Rogers, Tony Damon, and Otis Hackney.
So welcome to the school district education team. Please proceed. Michelle Armstrong, proceed with your testimony. I see we have a slide presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm
Sorry, Michelle.
I had my mic on. Alexander Robinson Rogers will be starting our presentation on behalf of the School District of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Councilwoman Richardson and members of the Committee on Education. My name is Alexandria Robinson Rogers, and I'm the Executive Director for Post-Secondary Readiness at the School District of Philadelphia, alongside my colleague, Michelle Armstrong, who is the Executive Director for Career and Technical Education. And so we're really excited about this resolution and hope to be able to provide some high-level context around how we are moving from a district perspective to ensure that all students are prepared for life after high school, that we have made a significant shift in our work over the past year, specifically to ensure that all students are able to attain careers that matter. Next slide, please, Ania. So I think important to understand first is that much of the work around post-secondary readiness, I think a lot of times folks make an effort to kind of put students on a track or towards either college or career or military. And we are working intently in the district from a collaborative stance to ensure that all of our work is intimately connected. So which means that Michelle Armstrong and I are joined at the hip along with other leaders who ensure that our students are not only prepared to enter high school, but they're prepared to exit high school. And significant to that is that our large focus of our work now is on career readiness. So we understand the benefits of having a CTE program, and we just kind of side note, we consider that a rigorous coursework activity, just as we would dual enrollment. But all of our work is geared towards Future Ready PA, as I'm sure all of the Committee on Education knows, with the changing of the graduation requirements to a statewide model starting next year. Students will have the opportunity to pursue alternate pathways to graduation. Included in those alternate pathways are work-based learning experiences, apprenticeships, and other career-focused modalities that students will be able to use in collaboration with their Keystone test exams. So we have been really focused on changing the way that we view the work internally and making sure that not only are our CTE students getting more content in their courses, but we are also embedding more career content into our core content courses. And so that work will be happening over some time. But we're really excited about the way that we're moving. And we also have established a career-connected learning division in our office that focuses specifically on the career-connected work in partnership with the City of Philadelphia and Philadelphia Works. Next slide, please, Hania. So I wanted to pull out two specific places to help council understand this new and exciting work that we're embarking on around this career-infused curriculum. So here you'll see the top things that we are doing in this coming year to ensure that we are on the right path. We have landed on the thought that all students, not the thought, the fact that we know that all students need to have an opportunity to engage with experiences and skills to prepare them for life after high school. We are going to ensure that career and education work standards are embedded in our core content areas. As I just mentioned, we are starting, our curriculum team is focusing now on updating math curriculum. And so they are working to ensure that these career pieces show up in the classroom, in every classroom. Michelle and her team have been working intently on ensuring that, specifically since we've been focusing on math, that math is being pulled out in those CTE courses and curriculum and highlighted. And so I'm sorry, when I say pulled out, I mean highlighted, so that we can really see the connections to speak to some of the needs that Katie Wolfgang expressed in our students having those strong foundational skills. And we are also working to ensure that our supports are distributed with equity, right? We understand that given the current landscape and research from over the years and Black and Brown students and their experiences in school and the achievement gaps, we are working to put some things in place so that we can start addressing those things and making sure that equity is a part of all of our conversations, especially as related to career preparedness. And then we also are focusing on student engagement. We want to make sure that our students with special needs and English language learners are accounted for as we develop these strategies. And I think most importantly, our student engagement team that you will actually hear from a little bit later today. We have a team of students who reached out to the student who reached out specifically to Dr. Height with some thoughts and ideas on the desires that they have in terms of what they believe they need to be prepared for when they leave high school. And as a result, they have created a committee or a board, as you will, called Yo Philly. And a few of those students will testify today. And give their perspective of what's happening, how COVID has impacted them, and how they think they can be of help. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, next slide, Hania. I didn't know if you hear me. So here is, I'm going to turn things over right now to my colleague, Michelle Armstrong, who will talk a little bit more specifically about what's happening in CTE.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the school district regarding career and technical education. The slide was removed.
Sorry, I'm going to put it back up. My computer froze.
No, I will start by just reiterating that CTE, career and technical education, is and has always been an integral part of the school district's rigorous coursework strategy. There we go. What we're doing and where we're focused on this year is to ensure that all of the programs that we offer throughout the school district, and currently, just for context, we currently have, we serve about 5,700 students throughout the school district, 120 programs in every councilmatic district. And what are we doing to ensure that every single program is aligned to workforce needs and college and career standards is that we have looked at research, national research. We have looked at and worked with our workforce partners, as our partner with PhilaWorks already stated. We work with them intimately to understand what the current workforce is and what the future workforce is to ensure that our programs align. We've also looked at what are those standards? What are those elements that should be in every program, regardless of what zip code you're in or what school you're in? We need to make sure that every single program that we offer is a quality program. And how are we doing that? How are we ensuring that that's happening at the school level? We have created what we call the indicators of success. It is, we know what should be at all of our programs. We need to know whether or not that's actually happening at school. So we've created what we call indicators of success to determine the health of our programs, those strengths and those opportunities to allow us to improve the effectiveness of our programs. It allows us to see how we're doing. We know what we should be doing. Now look into how we're doing it. And then also, as my colleague Ali shared, we're ensuring that, and we've always attempted to ensure, but now we're having an intense focus on making sure that all of the core content, and specifically math this year, is embedded. We have already looked at all of the competency lists and what are those math standards that align to it. And we're working with our teachers, not only our CTE teachers, but our math teachers, to make sure that we show the alignment to our students and that we make sure that when they graduate, they understand how understanding the math content, the math competencies will enhance what they're doing in their chosen career field. I will also speak to some of the industry partners that we currently have in CT, as well as our college and career office. We are working, as you can see, I'm not going to take time to go through all of our partners, but every single one of these programs or these partners, industry partners listed here, has helped us in some way, shape, or form. They have helped us with terms of curriculum building. They have helped us with identifying what are those industry certifications that matter in the real world. They've also helped us with internships when we were in person, but a lot of them have stepped up to the plate and also helped us with doing virtual internships and guest speakers. So what we do in CT and what we do at the school district in terms of preparing our young people for the workforce is we depend greatly on our partners, and they have been a great help in ensuring that what we're preparing meets today's standards and tomorrow's standards for our young people, but it also helps us with creating our curriculum and ensuring that our teachers are also prepared. I'm going to give this back to Ali.
Thanks, Michelle. So we wanted to give you kind of an overview of what our students were doing and helpful in understanding where students are, what types of courses they're taking when we think about rigorous coursework and how rigorous coursework is preparing students for careers. And so you'll see our data here from the past 2 school years, and you'll notice that the number of 12th graders for last year increased from the previous year, and that close to, not quite a half, but close to a half of those students have been involved in at least one rigorous course. So we understand that some students may have, they may actually be in a dual enrollment course and be a part of a CTE program, or they might be taking AP courses and be in a dual enrollment program. And so as we think about the strategies and supports that we need to put in place to not only ensure that the content that these students are getting that increases and improves, but we also increase the number of students who are enrolled. Because what we understand from the national data is that rigorous coursework is a strong indicator not only of achieving graduation, but also ensuring students are prepared for careers, because many of the skills that are necessary in order for students to be successful are embedded in rigorous coursework. Thanks. Can you go to the next slide, Hania? So we understand that there's a lot of conversation around the impact of COVID on our students and on our programming. And so we wanted to pull out a few key observations that we've made and identify where we've been intently thinking and planning and strategizing around. We definitely have been informed through the data and the research that's been coming out over the past few months that the less education students had, they were more likely to have been laid off. And so I think one of the council women made mention to the largest number of students being that the largest number of people who applied for pandemic unemployment assistance did not have a high school graduation, a high school diploma. So that is part of the reason why we're focusing on ensuring more students are graduating and putting those structures in place around being on track and making sure that they can obtain credits where they've lost credits, and ensuring that we are giving them the content that they need. We also understand that automation is increasing. And so we are definitely focusing on increasing access and resources and experiences. Pat from Philadelphia Works mentioned the partnership with Hilco and the partnership that we have with the City of Philadelphia around the Career Connected Learning work supports this endeavor. We know that the Perkins federal dollars, which fund CTE, also now support CTE programs or career readiness programs in middle school. We have a team of partners as well as school leaders and teachers who is embarking on developing a middle school career framework. And we've also released the Pathways to Success website, which is new. It just was released about a month ago, where students can actually go in, explore their career interests, and they can also identify which schools in the School District of Philadelphia offer the types of programs they may be interested in. And so whether those are career and technical education programs or dual enrollment programs or even JROTC, students can now see that earlier, and we're hoping that that will help students make significant decisions around where they choose to go to high school. And then we also know that the closure of school has the potential to increase these inequities that I spoke about earlier, especially for our Black and Brown children. And so we are working to ensure that we are embedding these career strategies into the curriculum and hoping, and with an equity lens, and hoping that we can ensure that students do not get off track any more than they already have. Next slide. So here are the paths that we have set forth. And I think most folks, we spoke to this, Michelle talked to this, definitely preparing students to succeed in the career of their choosing. So we definitely need continued investments and opportunities for this rigorous coursework like dual enrollment and CTE. We want to be sure that we're providing students with the hands-on opportunities so that they have the work readiness and industry-specific skills. And so we are looking to get increased employer engagement through our partnerships and new partnerships that we're hoping to build. And we definitely need students to be exposed into jobs in growing industries. And so we need to continue to look at the data that's coming out in the research and start identifying the shifts and making sure that we are making adjustments internally the best way that we can. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for allowing us to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you. We're going to let the two other panelists, and then we'll ask questions of the entire panel. Tony Damon and Otis Hackney. Are they available?
Yes, hello, I'm here. Good afternoon. I want to start out by thanking Council for giving us this opportunity to speak today. As many of you know, my name is Dr. Tony Damon, and I am the proud principal of Morrell Dobbins CTE High School. I was born, raised, and educated here in Philadelphia. I completed my undergraduate and graduate studies here in the Philadelphia region. While I have only worked here in the School District of Philadelphia for 8 years, my experience offers over 25 years of CTE instruction and leadership. I have worked in urban and suburban areas of the Commonwealth and have served on committees at the state level for CTE. Additionally, I've worked in juvenile justice, owned a business here in the city, and I'm certified in special education. Needless to say, I know a little something about what it takes to prepare the next generation of industry leaders. Dobbins has had the opportunity to have 12 CTE programs as a result of a $39 million renovation. It is important to note that CTE is not your old VOTEC. Each and every one of our programs serves a dual purpose: to prepare students to go directly into the workforce with industry credentials and experience, and also to ensure that they are more than prepared to engage at the collegiate level. Students who attend Dobbins are aware upon admissions that we are a college prep technical high school. What this means is that every program is aligned to a collegiate program. We strive to ensure that all students understand the importance of continuing their education at least part-time while engaging in meaningful employment. While we have many of the traditional programs like cosmetology, barbering, and culinary, where our students earn state license or serve safe certification and are immediately ready for employment, you should know that we have other more emerging career programs like networking technology, biomedical technology, and digital media, where students generally need to engage in internships in addition to their certifications to begin entry-level employment. We believe strongly that requiring our students to engage in meaningful internships, community service, and CTE programs aligned to targeted career pathways, our students are better prepared to meet the needs of industry and contribute to the economic development of this great city. Another point that many do not realize about CTE is that in addition to preparing students for the workplace, it also helps our students identify the careers that they do not want to pursue without spending thousands of dollars on a college education only to learn that they really do not like that particular field. I appreciate that City Council seeks to support and find opportunities for curricular alignment to better prepare our students to enter the workforce immediately upon graduation. I do believe also that as educators, we have the tools to work on the curriculum. I think where the opportunities to expand access for our students, both internally and externally with our partners. These external partners include you, City Council, to help expand access and opportunities for young people. We need you to lean in on organizations and businesses in and around the city to allow and encourage shadowing and internship opportunities for students. I am fully aware of the opportunities through the Philadelphia Youth Network during the summer and throughout the school year. Far too many of our businesses shy away from employing school-age students because of what they hear and see on the media. Unfortunately, it is because the youth have nothing to do after school that we see these unfortunate scenarios play out. We strongly believe that together, the city and the school district can make a huge difference, but we need to align our energies and efforts in support of our students, families, and in turn, the entire city. I thank you again for the opportunity to provide this testimony in support of career and technical education and look forward to continued conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Otis Hackney available?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Committee Chair Kiana Sanchez. Good afternoon. My name is Otis Hackney. I am trying to turn my camera on. There we go. Good afternoon. My name is Otis Hackney, and I'm the Chief Education Officer for the City of Philadelphia. I'd like to begin by thanking Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson first for the Family Feud reference, and the members of the Education Committee for inviting me to be a part of the conversation about connecting our students to quality career pathways in Philadelphia. The work of the Mayor's Office of Education is to advance quality education for all. Education provides a door to possibilities, and the quality of the experiences we provide as educators will shape their futures. Of course, a large role of education is to propel young people on the path to economic prosperity. This is accomplished through a comprehensive continuum of academic, technical, and social experiences that build upon each other as students move through our education system. COVID-19 has impacted every aspect of our life. It has accelerated the automation of work and disproportionately impacted communities with less education. At the same time, educators have had to rethink ways of educational delivery. My office has been working closely with the School District of Philadelphia and other city departments to ensure that our investment in high quality education continues, that educators in schools have the community supports we need for all children to realize their potential, and that our students leave our public schools with clear options for post-secondary education so they can secure the jobs of the future. Specifically, the Mayor's Office of Education is working alongside the department, as you've heard earlier, the Department of Commerce, and supporting the school district as it infuses career exploration and work readiness supports into all aspects of the curriculum. The school district is here today, as you've heard, and has discussed the details of this work. I would like to emphasize, however, these supports are essential for all students, not just the proportion that are in CTE programs. Looking at our own careers is a good example of this. I would imagine that all of you, like me, where we are today because of job shadowing, internship, and apprentice experiences we've all had. Such experience is critical, whether you are on a traditional CTE career path or not. Another critical strategy being led by my office is the city's investment in the Community College of Philadelphia through the Octavius Cotto Scholarship. As you know, COVID-19 has disproportionately impacted individuals with less education, as I stated earlier. Of the 208,000 plus Philadelphians who have filed for the first time unemployment claims between March 15th and July 4th, only 9% have post-secondary credentials. Now more than ever, we need to ensure our public school graduates understand the pathway to a career must include post-secondary education. Stackable post-secondary opportunities must be available for all of our youth. The Cotto Scholarship provides a pathway by offering first-time, full-time CPE students with last dollar tuition and funding to use towards basic needs such as books, food, and transportation. There are also additional staffing supports to ensure students are able to navigate the complexities of post-secondary education. Finally, the initiative includes dual enrollment slots for School District of Philadelphia students, a proven strategy for connecting first-generation and underrepresented students to college. In conclusion, I'd like to highlight 3 ways Council can support this important work. 1, ensure adequate and equitable funding. This work requires continued investment. We must ensure adequate and equitable funding from our state and federal governments for our public education system so that all students have the experiences they need for the jobs of the future. 2, continued investment in post-secondary pathways and dual enrollment. Now more than ever, we need to help our students get to and through post-secondary education. All living wage careers now require some form of post-high school education. 3, become a mentor and support employers who do the same. Careers just don't happen. They are nurtured by mentors. We must all step up and play our role by mentoring, providing meaningful internships, and ensuring that every young person we come in contact with have the individual cheerleaders they need to succeed. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to continue the conversations about this important topic. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hackney. And before I turn it over again to my colleague, Council Member Gilmore Richardson, I had a couple of questions to Michelle Armstrong and Alexandria from the school district. Thank you both very much. I know you've been working really hard in your leadership roles in these offices, and there's been a lot of realignment and reorganization. I'm going to start with the adult component and get to the youth component. In light of the fact that we have so many adult Philadelphians who don't have a high school diploma and may have been out of school for many, many years, and getting through a GED testing module, what, if anything, are you considering? I know so many adults who dropped out in 12th grade, 11th grade, only needed a few credits. What is the school district thinking about, and how can we address this population that, in a combination of skill sets and life learned, they might be able to obtain their high school diploma in lieu of putting them through, a whole GED curriculum? What are your thoughts on that?
So this is Alexandria. I'll jump in first. I think we have been connecting to other agencies. And so while that working with adults, is not specific to either Michelle or my office, we do partner regularly with our re-engagement center to get young adults back on track. And we also partner significantly with Philadelphia Youth Network in the City of Philadelphia, kind of for that kind of 18 to 24-year-old space, and make sure that the work that we're doing is connected and aligned around strategy so that we're not all over the place, right? I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm most excited about, is that as adults in the system, we have been working much more closely together so that we are not all focused on alternate goals, but either strategies we're using, supports we're designing, or research that we're looking at is connected. We're all kind of moving in the same direction.
Let me strongly encourage, again, in a COVID world, strongly encourage you. This is one of the points, again, more than checking off the boxes is connecting the dots, right? And I think this is a space that the school district, along with Philadelphia Workforce, should look at. I think, so, I used to run an alternative high school for the school district in my previous life. And one of the things that I found for Kensington in particular, in the Kensington area, one of the things that I found is that many adults, with some assistance, sometimes as little as 3 months, sometimes as much as a year, could really complete their high school curriculum. And I agree with you that the school district needs to concentrate on young people, but you do have people's original records and stuff. And I think this is a space that we may want to look at, again, in light of the statistics around how many folks, particularly the ones who have been disemployed. This may be something for the Workforce Development Corporation to kind of take on and say, okay, how many adults fall in this 3-credit, 4-credit situation that we could help along. And it would seem to me that kind of investment will have, a good return on investment for adults. These are, children that unfortunately, and I know people get defensive when I say this, we failed them when they dropped out. And so I still think we have a responsibility to them somehow. And maybe there's some space there for us to create some opportunities. As it relates to CTE, Michelle Armstrong, let me ask you, and with COVID, we haven't had an opportunity to have some in-depth conversation, which is why I welcome this conversation. This is the space that I know. I am a product of a summer employment program. I am a product of CTE graduation. I didn't think I was going to go to college. So all the things you're dealing with, all of plus. In light of that, one of the things, what is the future vision of the CTE program? I'll give you an example. I appreciate the SEPTA work. I have a lamp here that I show everybody that comes into my office who tells me my CTE students aren't prepared, right? The welding, carpentry, electrical shop did this lamp, and I'll show it to everybody and anybody who will give me the opportunity to do so. How are we going to work at realigning the curriculum CTE, so when the young people graduate, that they can go right in and get their licensing. We have a broader conversation with the building trades and the fact that they keep moving their goalposts. So our kids graduate with 3,000 hours and then they require 3,500 hours. And that conversation needs to be had too. But what are we doing to make sure the young people are graduating with the amount of time and that they need to enter some of these professional licenses? You're on mute.
Okay, I'm here. The CTE curriculum is a living document. It is updated, upgraded based on data we receive annually, and not even annually. Sometimes when COVID hit, we received annual data in the beginning of the year, then we received updated data. So it's a living document. We are constantly in communication with our partners in industry, as well as PhilaWorks, as well as PYN, to make sure that what we're teaching, and I mentioned before, is for young people who are 12th graders to graduate immediately and enter into the work world, but we also have to adjust it so our 10th graders who have 2-3 years before they have the ability to enter into the work world, that we're preparing them. So we are constantly looking at what is the curriculum. I just looked at, in preparation for this meeting, I looked at those industry certifications that we offered last year in the comparison to what we offered this year. Last year, we offered 67 industry certifications. This year, we're offering 80, right? And that is a direct result of input from our industry partners, input from post-secondary education, input, and when I say post-secondary education, some of our partners do give young people advanced credit if they have certain certifications. So we want to make sure that we allow our young people to be as prepared as possible. But the curriculum, the partners that we have, we are continuously changing them. For example, next year, we will have our first solar program, right? And that was in direct partnership with our industry partners, but working with the state, because we recognize that solar installation is an upcoming field that our young people can get livable wages. So we've done that. We have allowed for different types of delivery models. We have increased the amount of programming, even with the current curriculum that we have. Based on when COVID hit, we had to change the curriculum immediately to reflect what are those health and safety standards that our young people are now going to have to face when they're going into the work world. What are those customer service changes that they're going to have to face and be aware of and master before they go in? And what are those technological changes? What's those changes that they're going to have to be aware of in order to go into the workforce? That's not something that we necessarily had to focus on a year ago, but that is a focus of us now. So that is the other ways that we are trying to address the changes real time and looking in the future.
So pre-COVID, and we were involved in the Comcast franchise agreement that called for Comcast to hire 100 students a year. Can you provide an update, given COVID, where that program is, and if in fact Comcast is hiring those 100 students a year?
So I literally just received an email about they're starting the process and what it's going to look like. It's going to look different this year. We have been partners with them, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years. It may be more. I apologize. And we have been working with them, and they have been great partners in allowing the young people to not only learn on the job, provide mentors, and have the opportunity to interview for jobs. The email that I just received is talking about how it's going to look different this year. It's going to be more of a virtual, because we can't have young people going into people's homes and so forth. As for the amount of young people that have been hired, I can tell you from a numerical perspective, on average, every year we've had about a dozen young people participate in the program. And I can share that it's been a capacity, right? It's a capacity, that's what we talk, capacity in terms of supporting. But all of the young people that have participated love the program, have left with a mentor and some real technical skills, and had the opportunity to interview for positions.
So I'm going to turn this over to Kathy Gilmore Richardson. Let me again, when I was at Massbaum in the 11th grade, I worked for Cigna and I got paid. When I graduated, the year of my graduation, January, I was credit ready and I got hired for Cigna, paid. And I fought really hard for those 100 internships to be paid. And I think we really, really have to move in this space. And I know that the office has been reorganizing itself, but sometimes when we're thinking about moving forward, sometimes it's good to go back to basics. At that particular time, CTE programs were employing kids who were credit ready on the job. To Principal Damon's point, this was an opportunity for me to decide: am I going right into the workforce or am I going to college? Right? As many of my friends who are mass comm went to the Federal Supply Center and their whole careers were there, and they went to college as they worked. I made a decision to go to college. We need to go back to that in a more aggressive way. And so we're, as we talk through this, if there's an opportunity, this is one of the spaces where I believe the state could do more around their labor and industry grant to help you provide and build up that capacity, right? They don't want to give us money for public education, right? But they should be ready to give us some more money around this labor workforce piece and a smarter restart. So count on council and obviously the education committee to push this. This is, again, an area that I told the council member that I'm very, very committed to, because I'm proof of where we were and the ability to get young people right into jobs, and we have to amplify that. And I want to be able to go tell Comcast we're going to take up those 100 jobs and maybe 300 jobs, because they hired 900 temporary workers pre-COVID. So just the thought of how many kids can we get into those situations is hugely important, and we look forward to working with you to expand that. Thank you, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
No, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and particularly for your insight on this issue. I know we had talked about this very early on, and I really appreciate a lot of the feedback that you have given, and it's really helped to inform how we move forward on this issue. So I really want to say thank you. To the district, the councilwoman already addressed one of my questions around the industry certifications and the numbers, and you addressed that, but particularly around the data you supplied stating that around 20% of 12th graders are in CTE programs. And you stated also there's 120 programs that are throughout every council district in the city. Can you talk to us about how all of that has changed, over the last 3 to 5 years? So we have 120 CTE programs now. About 20% of 12th graders are in that program. Is there any historical data that you can provide to the committee that will amplify how these programs have changed? Meaning, if there's 120 programs now, 5 years ago, was it, 110 programs? And, did the subject matter of the programs change in any way? For instance, if it was an automotive program, is it now more focused on the automation and the computer skills that you need in that industry? And I say that because I listened to Dr. Damon's testimony and also know of the success of the CTE programs that she has specifically at Dobbins. And she talked about how this is not your what we consider the original VOTEC programs. Like, for instance, my uncle was a diesel mechanic and he graduated from Edison, and he was able to have a 40-plus year career in that industry as a result of the certification he received as a student in the school district. But now we're dealing with programs that have to meet a variety of requirements in new industries. So could you give us some historical data on how the CTE programs have changed, and also how you all work with the state on not only the certifications for the programs, but for the principals and the leaders in this area at the district?
So in regards to the historical data, I will compile that information and give it and share it with you later, which we can really pinpoint what are those programs we offered 5 years ago, and then 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and then give you some of the responses and the answers for the questions that you asked. So I'll give you that. In terms of working with the state and with the state for industry certifications, I'll start there. The state has a very prescribed list of those industry certifications that they will give the district credit for. And when we compile what I call the industry matrix, industry certification matrix, which outlines all of the programs, all the certifications that are aligned to the programs, and what year in which the students are to take it. We ensure that at minimum, what the state gives us, every student takes. But we have worked, and as I mentioned before in testimony, we've worked with our partners to not only have our young people take the base, I call it the base certification, which the state will give us credit for. We give our students additional, and for the record, I'd like to say the district pays for every single student to take the industry certification. So we don't ask for any student to pay. We make sure, and that's an equity and an access issue for us. So we pay for every single student to take their certification. So in addition to what the state presents or shares with us, we add additional certifications on, and it's really based on what industry is telling us. As you know, our teachers come from industry, right? So we get their expertise, we get their what we call OACs, Occupational Advisory Committees, their expertise as to what those industry, and we compile that, we look at it, and based on their recommendations, we order them and we pay for them. And to make sure that every young person in CT graduates with at least one industry certification, on average, they graduate with at least 2. Then in terms of the curriculum, working with the state, I believe that was your second part, B part. The district, over the couple of years, we have become really good partners with the state. With the state as well. And with the state, it's not an easy, a rapid flowing system in which new opportunity arises, a new program of study next year, right? So that's not, however, we have worked with them to get a timeline, a system, and if a new opportunity, case in point, our new solar program. They worked with us to share with us what are those elements necessary in order to create the program. What do you need? They have been a great partner in being technical assistance for that, and we have worked to open up that program. Also, with our health programs, I was in a meeting yesterday, and now they have surgical tech, right? So they are now looking at also what are the studies showing, where are those areas in which we need to pivot our programming so that our young people actually have and could have life-sustaining wages. And we are working with them to look at what are the competencies that are in our existing programs and how do we make that more rigorous and strengthened? And then how do we create new programs to align with what industry and all of the data is showing us, not just Philadelphia, because we work with PhilaWorks. Meg and I are BFFs. So we work to make sure that what is in Philadelphia, but the region. And then we're working to make sure that our current programs, we build up those competencies. And then also, if we identify a pathway, how do we bring that to Philadelphia?
Thank you so much. And one other quick question I had was relative to all of the principals, and I don't know, maybe Dr. Tony Damon could address this as well, but what type of certifications are necessary for principals of CTE schools? Like, are there any additional certifications that are necessary for those leaders?
Yes. So in addition to having your principal K-12 certification, principals of CTE should have a vocational director certification.
Okay. And do all of the principals for the schools that have CTE programs possess that certification, that additional certification?
Currently, not all. However, a significant majority are currently in PIL courses. And a couple of years ago, I can get that data for you as well. A couple of years ago, we did have a district-wide PIL in which we invited all of our principals to participate. But specifically today, I will have to get that information for you.
Okay, that'll be most helpful. And then one other question I have for Otis Hackney, if he's still here. And I just want to say I appreciate you, Otis, and working with you over the years, all the way back to Overbrook High School. You talked about 3 recommendations that we should undertake as a city. But I wanted to specifically drill down on city council and specific legislative work that we can do to actually help young people who are in the district better connect with job opportunities, particularly city job opportunities. Are there any recommendations that you can offer for city council specifically for us to take up legislatively?
Legislatively, we can I mean, I know what many council members do, and I think I referenced it, in terms of serving as mentors and bringing young people into offices. I know when we were once in person, there would be many times I would walk into a council member's office and there would be young people doing internships there or helping to staff those offices. So I think, if that's something that could be, make sure that it's widespread among council members would be helpful, because I think using the city as model, we have an expression on the city, on the mayor side of model employer. So how can we from the city be a model of these efforts and creating more of those spaces and opportunities for young people to come in and participate, to shadow and learn about how city government works. And just to be a part of the process, so they see, one, how challenging the work is itself, and they grow an appreciation for what people do every day that work in City Hall and those partners associated with that, and also opportunities to not just create mentorships but sponsors. I think, we often talk about mentors, the piece that sometimes people forget are key sponsors. And those are the people that open doors for you, right? So a mentor can give you, advice on a regular basis, but who are the sponsors and how do we create sponsorship opportunities for young people to really gain access to say, this is my person, make sure that they have a seat at the table or an opportunity within your organization. So that way they can be a part of that work. So that is a really key piece. So I know I only mentioned mentors in my testimony, but we have to really think about how do we create sponsors that truly open doors for students and make sure that they have a seat in those spaces.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And I will definitely circle back to you, particularly on our previous committee hearing, to figure out how we continue that alignment from a city perspective. And Madam Chair, I have one last question for the district. I just wanted to know from a CTE perspective, if we have any CTE programs around police science. And I ask that because I think we've all noticed that there's been a diversity issue around recruitment for police officers in the city. And I wanted to know if we have a police science CTE program and if there are plans to develop one, because I do think that could be an important program for us to have in Philadelphia to kind of help with some of the diversity issues we're seeing. I know one of the last classes in the police academy, from our understanding, was all white, had no diversity at all. And I think we need to, figure out how we continue to have a workforce in Philadelphia that reflects the demographics of our population. So I just wanted to, for the record, ask about a police science CTE program.
No, we do not currently have a police science CTE program. I think, we do have a fire science and EMT program at Randolph, but no, we do not currently have a police science program.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Madam Chair. That's an opportunity for follow-up, of which we'll do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great question. I know you have active ROTC programs that look at public safety and some of those other issues. So trying to figure out how those align will be important. I want to recognize Councilmember Gim, who has a question. Councilmember.
Hello, thank you very much. Hello, Michelle, it's great to see you. Appreciate your work so much, as you know. We've had some conversations about GED programs and, what can be done for young people, to get a high school diploma. But I am wondering if the district and if Otis, if you could talk a little bit about what opportunities there are in the district to get the actual high school diploma. So GEDs are one thing, but, a high school diploma is clearly going to be, more perceived as differently, right? And so it would be good to hear what opportunities actually exist for education options programs for young people or adults who are 18 and over to actually get a full high school diploma and not just a GED.
So, and I know Allie's on the call, but I know there is an office that has alternative education or programs for students that would like to attend and return. So such as like their EOP program that exists in many schools. And then they have other programs that are more conducive for adults, especially within sometimes their work or life time that they have, or cycles or availability they have. But there are various programs, and there's a full office that offers a range of programs, and we can provide you with a link or either put it in the chat or send that information to your office. So that way people know about the programs, because yes, I do agree that it's great for those that need to go into GED programs or get some type of equivalency is one thing, but often I do encourage those adults that can get into a high school diploma program, they can do that. Another thing is also with community college, they have a gateway program, and so that is a really good space, especially for adults that want to be with I think sometimes it's better for adults to be with other adults like them in those programs, because sometimes, if you're 30-something in your class with, a 19-year-old, sometimes that could be a little bit of a challenge. So there are other programs where, like the CCP program, and those students, once they get their high school diploma, and I know I mentioned in my testimony with the Cato Scholarship, they would be eligible for that. This is for any high school graduate. So if you're 18 years old or 30 years old, if you have a high school diploma or even a GED and interested in participating in the Cato Scholarship, they would be able to do that and have their last dollar's tuition covered, and those basic needs supports that I mentioned earlier, from books, food, and transportation, while they were in there, as full-time students. So what we are encouraging adults to do, I know this is not the time that people think about it during COVID in these spaces, but now is the time to educate yourself. Take advantage of programs where you can get certifications if you are underemployed, and take advantage of any free programs, because the Cato Scholarship will be a free program to the residents of the city. So take advantage of that while you're there. Now we can connect you to other social services or benefits programs that you're entitled to while you're in school, to make sure we can close some of those gaps. So that way you can not only get your high school diploma, but come out of this, this COVID phase that we're in, come out with not only degrees, but also certification and marketable skills to put you on a pathway and change the trajectory of your life and your children's life.
Yeah, I think we really want to emphasize this, because this is the time actually to be talking about training and being prepared for a new economy. There are a number of different programs that are available. I was just on the phone with OIC that's able to do OSHA certification, for example, which should be one of the top skill sets and certifications that almost everybody would want to have right now, to be able to maintain clean, healthy, safe workplaces and environments when we, either now while things are happening or as we start to come back. So I would love to hear, I understand you'll share some things with us, but since, there's an audience right now, if anyone can kind of run through which schools or what the available, how people can access the EOP programs to actually get a full high school diploma and or connect in with the community college opportunities, that would be great.
I'll jump in really quickly just to let you know that, just to confirm, hello, Councilwoman again, confirm that we do have 3 EOP sites. I can actually get the link, put it in the chat, or send it to you directly. We have 3 sites. They offer programs 3 times a year, and adults can get up to 6 credits, or they can get 6 or more credits towards their high school diploma. And so those programs are running regularly. There's also an evening site that has opened up over the past couple of years, and we'll be more than happy to send you detailed information on it.
Great. And do they access these online? Are they in person?
So right now, I think that everyone is doing virtual, but we do have an educational options program through our Opportunity Network on the school district website. And so people can go in, they can fill out a form, and someone from that office will be in contact with them to help them schedule and figure out all of the ins and outs of the program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions from this panel, because the clerk read the names of the next panel.
Dr. Pam Carter, Laura Riggle.
Thanks everyone for your patience. If Dr. Pam Carter from Community College is ready. And then Laura Riggle, which is from our Philadelphia Energy Authority. Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience.
Good afternoon, Chair Quinones Sanchez, Vice Chair Gim, and other members of City Council's Committee on Education. My name is Dr. Pam Carter, and I am the Dean of Business and Technology at Community College of Philadelphia. Thank you for allowing me to offer testimony on this resolution. Career and technical education fills a critically important role at Community College of Philadelphia. CTE prepares students by providing a combination of core academic skills, employability skills, and technical job-specific skills in program areas meeting Philadelphia employer workforce needs. Our work at Community College of Philadelphia involves constant assessment of our credit and non-credit curricula, which includes more than 70 workforce-focused programs to ensure alignment not only with current employer needs, but also labor market forecasts in Philadelphia. Post-secondary education has been shown to lead to positive economic, health, and labor market outcomes. A primary goal of educational programming at Community College of Philadelphia is to prepare students for good jobs with family-sustaining wages, leading to successful careers in fields that meet Philadelphia workforce needs. To accomplish this, a pipeline approach has been taken with emphasis placed on providing equitable access for all Philadelphians, delivering quality programs that reflect current advances in each discipline, facilitating transfer opportunities when appropriate, and interacting with Philadelphia employers to understand their current and future talent needs. As a result, partnering with the School District of Philadelphia has been and continues to be a vitally important aspect of achieving the mission of Community College of Philadelphia. Partnering efforts include, but are not limited to, outreach and recruitment, dual enrollment strategies, program articulations, and participation in advisory bodies for both high school and Community College of Philadelphia educational programming. While productive, there is room for expansion and greater proactive collaboration with the School District of Philadelphia, while concurrently making stronger connections with Philadelphia employers. To ensure preparedness for post-COVID-19 career opportunities, a holistic ecosystem approach to collaborative problem solving is envisioned. One of the important lessons of the COVID-19 response is that a systematic collaborative community approach is required to quickly achieve positive, large-scale community outcomes. Community College of Philadelphia looks forward to working with the city, the School District of Philadelphia, our transfer partners, and Philadelphia employers to systematically address the preparedness of Philadelphia citizens for post-COVID-19 career opportunities. I am open to take any questions that you may have.
We will allow Laura, and then we will take questions from this panel.
Great. Hi, I'm Laura Rigel. I'm the solar manager at the Philadelphia Energy Authority, and it's great to be here. Thank you, Chair Quinones Sanchez and Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for the invitation. We're excited to be here. The School District of Philadelphia set a new first for Philly this fall by launching Pennsylvania's first career and technical education solar program. The new program is the most intensive high school solar program in the nation and is part of the Philadelphia Energy Authority's Bright Solar Futures initiative. The first class of 10th graders started the program this fall virtually through Frankfurt High School, and additional classes of 10th graders will be added each year. The Philadelphia Energy Authority also supported PowerCorps PHL to establish a new Bright Solar Futures Fellowship in the spring of this year to offer a parallel pathway for opportunity youth, young adults age 18 to 30 who are un or underemployed. 11 of the 12 graduates from this new Bright Solar Futures Fellowship were placed into employment in the summer of this year despite COVID. This high placement rate is a testament to the resilience of solar companies' demand for solar workers, which has been on the rise since the launch of the Philadelphia Energy Campaign and programs like Solarize Philly and the Philadelphia Solar Rebate. In fact, solar installer was designated as a high priority occupation for Philadelphia County in 2017 based on significant employer demand. Entry-level jobs in solar and related clean energy fields do not require a college degree, pay a living wage, and open up a career pathway. Training Philadelphians for jobs in solar creates a real win-win by meeting employer demand for a trained workforce and connecting Philadelphians to well-paying, dignified work. We encourage City Council to celebrate and learn from the success of Bright Solar Futures, to support programs that increase the rate of solar adoption, and to connect your constituents to Philadelphia's robust network of solar training programs. I look forward to answering any questions, and I'm happy to provide more details about any of these programs if you reach out to me.
Thank you. Councilmember Richardson, do you have any questions for this panel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just quickly wanted to thank Dr. Carter and Laura for participating in today's hearing. And I just wanted Dr. Carter to briefly talk about the new center in West Philadelphia and what those expansion efforts will mean for additional adult CTE and workforce training programs, but also just really highlight how important CCP is to our local Philadelphia community. I know that when I was in grad school, I was applying to your nursing program because I was thinking about becoming a nurse because I was a unit secretary overnight at that time. And I know it's one of the best programs we have in the city. So if you could just briefly talk about what that expanded center will mean to our adult CTE programs that will be available in the city. And thank you, Laura, so much for our first CTE solar program. Thank you.
So our new Career and Advanced Technology Center in West Philadelphia is really opportunity for the citizens of Philadelphia, especially in West Philadelphia, but all of Philadelphia, to really be involved and get educational and training opportunities in some of the more technical areas that are up and coming, and really having a lot of career opportunity. So on the credit side, the anchor programs are transportation technology programs. And so our current general automotive technology program is going to be housed there, but we're able to expand because there's going to be so much additional space, and that had limited us before. So we have a number of manufacturers that are now partnering with us. We have already started a partnership with Nissan, and Nissan will be providing access to their certifications so that the students can learn on Nissan cars, they can learn their processes and procedures, and actually take their certifications while they're in school so that when they come out, they are ready to be employed by them. And in many cases, will have jobs with Nissan dealerships while they're in school. We also just recently signed a big contract for a Toyota T10 program, and that program is also going to be work-based. The students will go full-time, and it'll be integrated. They'll take classes, and then they'll also be working at Toyota dealerships. And it's the same type of activity where the students are going to be learning on Toyota cars with Toyota curriculum, and then also be able to earn certifications in the Toyota space. We also are going to have expansion in terms of having a diesel technology and heavy equipment program, and then also an alternative fuels program. So it's a big expansion of our transportation technologies areas. And then also on the non-credit side, we're going to have big spaces for welding program, CNC programming. We're going to have a nursing assistant and also dental assistant. So there's medical areas for healthcare, especially in that region. There's a lot of opportunity in West Philadelphia for that. And then we're also going to have a fabrication lab that's going to be open, that community members will be able to come and learn to work on the equipment in that area. There's going to be space in that area also for community events. There'll be enough space for that. So we really look at trying to make it a community-based facility, and purposely even the architecture. The architecture has a lot of windows and a lot of light. And the reason for that is we want everybody in the surrounding community to see what's happening inside, get excited about it, and become a part of it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carter, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. And I also want to kind of thank Community College. I know during the discussions around the poverty plan, we had a lot of ideas around combining school district work along with Community College, and know that we are still very much on council. And as we launch this poverty plan, to really look at strengthening the alignment and expanding the programming of Community College. Folks don't realize that we have a fabulous community college that has room for expansion in its footprint and is a key to our workforce development strategies. And so I look forward to continuing that conversation, and the West Philly campus I know is going to be beautiful and reflective of the kind of professionalism we want to bring into this space. So we thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Can the clerk read the list for the next panel? My apologies. We're going to try to get through this, and I thank everyone for their patience.
Jeremy Miller, Jerron Williams II, Kristen Brown, and Tashawn. I'm noting for the record that Jerron Williams will not testify in person.
Okay, so Jeremy Miller, are you available?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. Thank you so much for your patience, but we are here for you, so proceed.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Richardson and members of the Committee of Education. My name is Jeremy Miller, and I'm a member of Philly, the Post-Secondary Readiness Office Student Advisory Board. Thank you for allowing me to provide written testimony on resolution number 200395. As a senior, I've had 3 amazing years filled with various opportunities that provided experiences in their own respective fields: culinary arts, advanced placement known as AP courses, and JRTC. Based on the experiences that I've been blessed to have been able to accumulate, paired with my new role in Philly, I've had a mind to want to try to share some of my opinions with you all today in hopes of aiding you in making things easier for you all to understand the younger generations of students. Firstly, with CTE, I've only taken culinary classes, so I can't attempt to comment on CTE as a whole, but assuming the classes have generally the same work or comprehension amount, not taking these courses doesn't create a loss in education personally. For the students without them, it is my personal belief that without these classes, they get more classes that have a variety of applicable purposes, such as more sciences, maths, or histories, journalism, or drama. With AB courses, students are expected to learn more than those in regular classes, thus the AP credit. I do believe that this holds true. These courses do require a certain amount of discipline to continue wanting to attend, or just finishing the work that typically takes longer to complete. I believe that for at least the AP classes I've taken, these classes present no need to be changed, as they serve their purpose in preparing us for college level courses just fine. I believe these learning groups are fine as is. The students, being young, would like to have enticement to want to pursue these opportunities. I believe once students get into any of these types of courses, they'll be fine. Any student that joins the course willing to go through them still has a great time with them without any changes. Of course, those without the desire to continue will suffer more. I'm not saying these classes are perfect, just that the major problems I've seen have only been due to the timing of my schooling. I believe that after everything is settled and done, including COVID-19 and in-person schooling starts, everything should be fine. It is my belief that the Department of Education wanted to touch base on the need for more workforce education in normal classes. As I've never only had normal classes, I would not be the best choice to speak on this, thus I have no comment. Anyway, thank you all for your time and allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Kristen Brown?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay. Your name for the testimony?
Oh, Kristen Brown.
Oh. Proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Richardson and members of the Committee on Education. My name is Kristen Brown, and I'm the founding member of YoPhilly, the Post-Secondary Readiness Office's Student Advisory Board. Thank you for allowing me to provide written testimony on resolution number 200395. How many times have you heard an adult tell a child, "You are the future"? I know in my youth that I've heard it many times, but I've also heard adults telling us that we don't know what we want, or "I know what's best for you." But times have changed. Years ago, when many of today's adults were going to school versus me going to school now, many aspects were very different. Technology has advanced, we have the advantages of more research, and most importantly, our environment has evolved. The things that children of today have experienced are not like anything you may have as a child, or even adults of today experience now. Something like sex wasn't common for teens to have, and one's mental health wasn't often considered. Parents and teachers often assume that children are okay, or that we don't know what's going on in the real world, which is a valid point, but truthfully, the roles are reversed. It seems that adults don't tend to take the time to understand our world. We often hear, "They're not ready yet," "You don't know what love is," or "She's not ready for that conversation." They don't understand us the way we understand each other. My peers and I may not agree upon everything, and we may not see everything the same way, but we are living in the same era. We see the same things, we deal with the same things, and we have the same things affecting us. That is where YoPhilly comes into play. Adults often disregard the input of a child because we are viewed as being too young or just children. Students should be able to seek a feeling of comfortability within YoPhilly as we work together. Just as Black women came together and put a woman of color in the office of vice president, I reached out to the school district to help give my peers a say in our figurative office. Adults know adults, children know children. I'll acknowledge the fact that we don't know every single thing there is to know about adult life, but often we don't have opinions and choices that are made for us. Yes, we need guidance. Yes, we need support, but our personal wants should be as diverse as our needs. My ears in the classroom heard different things in the ears of your principals, staff, and educators. As I work with YoPhilly to share my ideas and ideas from my peers with the Post-Secondary Readiness Office, I believe that we can build strong connections between staff and students. Many students express a concern for life skills that they should be taught, including financial literacy and self-love. We want to show care to the goals, talents, and desires of our youth. We are working together with student-led ideas and insight. We plan to share ideas from this team in order to develop sound programming and resources that prepare students like us for the obstacles that we may encounter in life. YoPhilly allows our youth to speak up and have a voice to the people who often don't have the opportunity to hear from them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. Tashawn, is Tashawn available? And then we'll open it up for any questions for this panel.
Yes, I am. Hello. Hello, my name is Tayshawn McMullen. I graduated from the Bright Solar OIC class in July of 2020. This class taught me the basic fundamentals of solar. It involved the racking electrical systems and what it takes to be involved in a solar company. It provided me to know what to have as tool wise and mentally to prepare me to be productive in a solar system company. Sorry, my phone keeps going in and out. Beyond solar, it taught me to be professional and focus on my work. Due to COVID lockdown, we didn't get a lot of hands-on training as we would like, but we also found other ways to get it through. It did slow me down a little bit, but I learned the pace through working at Solar States in the company. The class did teach me. I'm sorry. Can you skip me for a second? I'm sorry. I'm getting a phone call. You can continue.
We must have had a bad connection. Councilmember Gomer Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank all of our young people and all of the students for their testimony and for providing information around their firsthand experiences in these programs. And I wanted to just personally thank Tashawn, personally thank all of the young people, Kristen and also Jeremy and Jerron, who was with us earlier, for providing their testimony and participating in council this afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else to testify on this particular resolution? Seeing none, could the clerk read the names of the list for the panel number 1 for resolution 200430?
Kevin Bethel, Abigail Gray, and Dr. Jamie Banks.
Is our chief on? Thank you so much for your patience. Chief Bethel?
Hi, this is Abby Gray. I think I'm actually the first speaker for our group.
Oh, okay. I had our chief, Kevin Bethel, but please proceed. Your name for the testimony, proceed. There he goes. Hey, buddy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Abby Gray. I'm the Deputy Chief of the Office of School Climate and Culture for the School District of Philadelphia. Should I begin?
Yes, please proceed with your testimony.
Okay, I'm just looking for
presentation. Give me 1 second.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ania. Good afternoon, members of council, and thank you for inviting us here today to share the School District of Philadelphia's work in the area of conflict resolution. My name is Abby Gray. I'm the Deputy Chief of the Office of School Climate and Culture, and I'm joined today by 2 of my colleagues. Kevin Bethel is the Chief of School Safety with the district, and Dr. Jamie Banks is the Deputy Chief of the Office of Prevention, Intervention, and Trauma. Go ahead, Ania, next slide. Thank you. We believe that preparing our students for success and keeping them safe necessarily includes equipping them with skills for conflict resolution. That's a general term, so here I list precisely what skills research tells us are most critical for avoiding and resolving conflict. These include identifying one's own and others' emotions, self-regulating one's emotions under stress, helping others de-escalate or calm down, mediating conflicts, understanding and expressing empathy, recognizing and respecting differences, being aware of one's social environment and building relationships within it, setting and working toward personal goals, and communicating effectively even when emotions are high. I'd like to note, having previewed Dr. Reeves' testimony, that the work we're actively engaged in to develop these key skills, which I'm about to share with you, is very well aligned with the focus on conflict resolution that Dr. Reeves advocates. In order to develop the skills that I've just mentioned in students of all ages, the school district is following an approach that includes explicitly teaching these skills, giving students time and opportunity to practice them, and allowing youth to lead in this work as much as possible, while at the same time making sure that all the adults who interact with students at high stress times have the skills to effectively support them. We target schools for services based on data from the schools and their surrounding communities. So next slide, please. We carry out this approach through the implementation of our core climate programs. The first core program that I highlight here is Relationships First. Relationships First is our own restorative practices model developed by our office, and it's growing fast with over 100 schools receiving support from our office to implement the program this year. In the Relationships First model, students and staff members sit in physical circles, of course this looks different virtually, and follow a structured community building circle protocol each week to engage in respectful dialogue that is designed to proactively break down assumptions, build strong connections, and strengthen students' empathy, respect for differences, and communication skills. When conflicts do occur, Relationships First schools use a different protocol called the Harm and Healing Circle to engage students in working together to mediate and find a peaceful resolution. We've had tremendous success with this model. A student is joining us today from Juniata Park Academy. Last year, that school used Harm and Healing Circles to mediate 184 conflicts. None of the agreements that were reached between students through those mediations were ever broken. Secondly, as a district, we are now more focused than ever on social emotional learning. What this means is that teachers are explicitly teaching critical social emotional skills, like recognizing and regulating emotions, being aware of others' emotions and experiences, and building relationships. We are actively and aggressively building our capacity to support this work. For instance, we're partnering with an organization called Transforming Education to develop and provide a year-long professional development series on social emotional learning for all teachers. That began in August and is spanning throughout the year. The next core program I'd like to mention is Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, or PBIS. Our office has grown from supporting 10 schools with PBIS training and coaching 6 years ago to 104 this year. PBIS works by explicitly teaching expectations like respect and self-regulation, and then rewarding students for complying with those expectations. We have seen decreases in violent incidents in our PBIS schools that exceed the decreases in non-PBIS schools by 7 times. So we know that this program is effective in addressing the goals that we're discussing today. Finally, we have school-based youth courts in a growing number of schools. Youth courts are a form of restorative mediation in which a mock legal process is used to determine constructive resolutions for fights or other behavioral issues. In youth courts, the students are trained and fully participate as advocates, judges, and members of the jury. Last year, our youth court students resolved 542 cases peacefully. The majority of those were mutual conflict. That's 542 situations that would have otherwise ended in suspensions or other disciplinary consequences, and most likely lingering conflict. We also have a student joining us today to talk about youth courts. These are just the programs that we use most widely. Excuse me. There are many other examples that target particular schools. I'm sorry, Hania, can you please advance the slides? Thank you. There are many other examples that target particular schools or groups of schools with demonstrated needs. For example, the Youth Dialogue Project is a collaboration with Temple University that is focused on a small group of high schools. And this project teaches students techniques for both preventing and successfully addressing conflict, and it engages them in using social media as a tool for productive dialogue within their communities. So back to that approach that I identified and outlined earlier on that initial slide. Through our core programs, we teach the students these skills. Some of this instruction is very targeted. For instance, a teacher may deliver a lesson that is all about empathy. But we're also helping teachers with professional development and resources on integrating this skill building with academic instruction. So to support this, our office has worked with the curriculum office at the district to embed social emotional lessons and activities in the lesson plans teachers use for academic instruction. So that a history lesson, for example, might include an explicit focus on the role that empathy or lack of empathy played in a historical event. We also provide a mindfulness curriculum that is widely used by teachers at all levels. And in some schools, teachers use other curricula, such as the social emotional learning curriculum called Second Step. Another important piece of our approach, as I mentioned earlier, is giving students time and opportunities to practice the skills that they're learning. As one example, this year for the first time, all students in all grades have 30 minutes in their daily schedules for community meetings. This is a time when students join their teacher and their classmates to connect and discuss things that are important to them. It's a best practice for building positive relationships and strengthening social emotional skills. In Relationship First schools, students also participate in community building circles for about 45 minutes a week. In addition, we encourage schools to use mediation whenever possible to resolve conflicts or behavior issues. And our programs are designed to engage students in the mediation process. In fact, Relationships First schools, students are often the mediators of conflict between other students. And in youth courts, that is always the case. By building in ways that students can lead and truly own these experiences, we're making sure that these skills are transferable beyond the school setting. Next slide, please. Thank you. As I mentioned, we work to provide the most intensive services to the schools that need them the most. As just an illustration of this, we've been very successful in winning competitive grants to support this work in targeted areas of the city. As this slide shows, in just the past year, we've received more than $5 million in federal and state grants that are specifically earmarked for violence prevention and conflict resolution activities in schools in the communities with the highest rates of violence. With these funds, we're providing extra support, training, and programming for schools where it's most needed. And all of that work is just getting underway and will be going on for at least the next 5 years. Thank you so much for your interest in our work, and I'll turn it over now to Dr. Jamie Banks.
Hi, everyone. I have to apologize. My camera is not being recognized, so I will only speak through my voice. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jamie Banks, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Prevention, Intervention, and Trauma at the School District of Philadelphia. I'm thankful for the opportunity to offer testimony today with my colleagues regarding Resolution 200430. The focus of my testimony today will be on our Healing Together initiative, which brings together the work of my colleagues that will be shared today, and also includes collaboration amongst many offices at the district. In August, the school district launched Healing Together. Our students and staff have experienced a lot over the last 9 months. There's been a lot of Thank you, Hania. There's been a lot of disruption to familiar routines, feelings of isolation, separations from friends, teachers, and colleagues. There's also our students and staff have experienced pain and division caused by the racial injustice. Healing Together was designed to address the needs of our students, staff, and families in the wake of sustained trauma. Healing Together encompasses an intense focus in 4 areas: mental health and trauma, social emotional learning, relationships and community, and adult wellness. The training and programming created within these strands were created through a collaborative approach with assistant superintendents, principals, teachers, counselors, and multiple offices within the district. Next, I'm going to review each strand that's on this slide. In terms of mental health, the goal for this strand was to equip schools with additional knowledge, concrete strategies, resources, and supports to address trauma and mental health needs for students. This work includes a commitment to addressing trauma as both a result and a root cause of conflict and violence. Many schools within the district have received trauma training from the Office of Prevention and Intervention, Lakeside, and other local partners. A lot of this is more than just your one-off training. Much of this training also includes coaching to help schools to really consider what's going on in their schools and how to be more trauma-sensitive, trauma-informed to support their students and families. Teachers and counselors were provided with training on how to identify students that may need additional support virtually. This training included interventions that teachers could utilize and what to do if they're not responding to those interventions. We've encouraged all staff to share student concerns with support physicians, counselors, climate staff, our social workers, so that we can help connect students to the support they need. As Dr. Reeves said in the statement that she submitted, many students, there might be an incident that occurs, and when you unravel that, there is underlying trauma, mental health needs that are the root of the issue. And so we are doing our best to make sure those are identified as soon as possible so that we can provide the student with the support they need. In September, Community Behavioral Health launched Intensive Behavioral Health Service, IBHS. For the first time, an IBHS provider has been assigned to every school in the district. This service continues to increase access, which strengthens our ability to support our students and families. We believe that this increased level of access to these services will benefit our students that require additional support. Without this level of support, the students may engage in more conflict. Also, this service can also help strengthen their skills in the areas of conflict management, social skills, emotional regulation. In addition to our school counselors and STEP coordinators, we wanted to ensure that our students and families that were experiencing high levels of stress due to all that was going on or is currently going on had the support they needed. To assist, in partnership with Uplift, the Center for Grieving Children, the Philly Hope Line was created. This Hope Line is a helpline that students and families can utilize to receive counseling services and help be connected to other resources. Again, our goal is to just increase support as much as possible, especially considering the times we're in. We also stress the importance that we must take care of our adults that are teaching our students. The goal of our adult wellness strand is to provide staff with opportunities to receive support about their own stress and trauma, and to assist school leadership in creating a culture of adult wellness for their teams. School staff have had the opportunity to participate in small support groups to provide them with a safe environment to share their thoughts and feelings. Throughout this year, we're going to continue to work with principals, school leaders, and staff in this area. Earlier in the testimony, Dr. Abby Gray has shared her office's work in the areas of social-emotional learning and relationships with community. I will highlight the high-level goals as it relates to Healing Together, but please refer to her testimony for an in-depth understanding. So the goals of social-emotional learning strand was to build foundational knowledge about social-emotional learning and to establish community meetings district-wide. And to further integrate social emotional learning into academic content and not seen as something separate. With relationships and community, the goal was to build engagement by creating strong classroom and school communities, by creating buy-in on norms and expectations in the virtual setting. Additionally, within this strand, we want to help school administration to understand the importance of adopting restorative approaches as the first line of disciplinary response. Although Healing Together was developed as a response to our current environment situation, we believe that the intense focus on these strands should and will continue to be the focus of our work and integrated in both not only the socio-emotional mental health realm, but also academic. And with that, I turn it over to Kevin Bethel.
All right. Well, thank you. And so I just wanted to first thank the committee and the council members, Councilman Quinona Sanchez and Councilman Richardson and those Councilman Gimmel was on earlier. I really think this is a really important topic, and as someone who, I come to the space, I'm a special advisor and chief of school safety for the Philadelphia School District. But I also served as a deputy commissioner of the Philadelphia Police Department. I served almost 30 years, and I retired in 2016. And as someone who spent almost 3 decades in this space, I can't tell you that our young people need to be taught how to deal with conflict and really how to resolve these issues that they deal with on a daily basis. As someone who born and raised in the city, I was fortunate enough and went to Bartram High School, and I played sports, and I learned that conflict resolution through sports in my regard. But our young people need that support. Last November I was honored by Dr. Height, superintendent of schools, brought me on board to lead the transformation of our school safety and ensure that our interactions with students was seen through a restorative lens. And that has been, even when I was on the police department and working across from the police department with Dr. Height, he has always wanted this passion to change how we are. So I'm inside now, and armed with that charge, the Office of School Safety has embarked on a comprehensive strategy to re-envision our work. And what I'll describe to you is, as we align with the team from climate safety and support services overall, how their work is really informing my work to make us better as an organization and also support the school district. You can change the slide, And so we've created a 5-pillar strategy. Our strategy is rooted in these pillars: restorative practices, training and education, recruitment, community outreach, engagement, really being data-driven, using research and officer wellness, and a few of these areas my colleagues touched on. But today I'm just going to really focus on restorative practices. And you can go to the next slide in here. We want to focus on our restorative practices as this really serves as the foundation for our work. It aligns with the work of the committee and the charge of your committee, and it also aligns our work with the student supports. Our work really requires that the school safety personnel are properly trained to de-escalate conflicts, but at the same time, give the students the tools to constructively solve peer conflicts and and to deal with the trends of violence that we deal with as a city. And to accomplish this task, we have really embarked on. I just want to share some activities with you. First and foremost, we began with changing our job description to integrate restorative justice practices and de-escalation in those key components that we think the persons who enter our organization should have. Those new highly safety officers have the complete understanding of their role, the importance of fostering positive relationships, both student and staff. And that's a change for us, right? We're not a law enforcement-centric organization. We're a part of the school entity to really engage in restorative work and work with our young people. And so that's a really key part, a key for us. One of the things I definitely want to highlight is we deal with the conflict, which often rises where there possibly may be a situation of arrest. But as many of you know, we've partnered with the Philadelphia Police Department and Department of Human Services and our Philadelphia School Diversion Program. That diversion program has really led to an 84% reduction in school arrests from a system in 2014 that was doing almost 1,600 young people being arrested for conflicts, many times minor conflicts that were handling in the school. Last year was only 256. But we're also blessed that because through the leadership of Commissioner Outlaw and the members of our executive team, we're now going to be expanding that diversion work. Even to the point that the commissioner has allowed the diversion team to now come into my office at 440. So internally, we'll be able to really work inside our system to ensure that we're not arresting young people, be able to divert kids in our program, get them to programs. And our program really is based on not arrest, so we don't do any arrest paperwork. The child is diverted to services. And Human Services, Department of Human Services and their team has done an amazing job. We've diverted over 2,300 students since the program has started, and that number will just continue to increase. And those young people do not get taken from the school. They're not arrested. They're not fingerprinted. They're not photographed. They're not held in a cell block. And we get them services because, as you know, many of them have underlying issues, and much of that through those conflicts manifests itself in schools, and then we were leading to arrests, and we really are avoiding that. And we have, as part of our safety officers program, all of our officers are required to go through a safety training program, and they're recertified every year. They get extensive hours on de-escalation techniques and how to respond appropriately, how to understand those trauma triggers. And so we're really excited about, we are one of the few organizations that really make our folks and men and women go through that process. Some other key areas of one of the things we're really excited about, we're presently in a collaboration with Drexel University, University of Pennsylvania, the National Institute of Justice to develop a positive school safety program. This program, I say, is the first kind of its nation, where we're taking our school safety officers and giving them a number of skills around trauma-informed care, aligning them with the positive behavior intervention supports that my colleagues talked about, to really allow them men and women to work effectively in that space. We have 30 officers right now who are being trained. Upon their completion of training, they will be trained to trainers, and then they will start to teach those core elements to the rest of the staff around creating positive relationship with students, promoting positive behavior, de-escalation, and problem solving. So really excited about that. And I hope that, as part of this public process, I have to want to express my gratitude to Karen Lynch, the Chief of Student Services, and my colleagues here today, Dr. Gray and Dr. Banks, and even Rachel Holzman, who's not part of the testimony, who's but a part of the team who oversees the student rights and responsibility, because they have been immensely supportive as we've been going through this re-envisioning work that we're doing. As Dr. Gray outlined in her presentation, we're taking full advantage of the Relationship First program to train all of our personnel. All of my personnel recently went through the Restorative Circles training with Dr. Gray's team. That training is critical for our work and enables us to provide a safe space for students to address their conflicts. We have almost 270 officers who were trained in that program, and now we're going to take a cohort of them and they're going to get 4 additional layers of that training. So our goal as an agency is to be doing circles in the school setting on a regular basis, helping to deal with the conflict and really taking the work that Dr. Gray and the team in the Student Services have really done to really expound it. I actually have even detailed one of my men and women into her office to serve as my liaison, and they're training that individual, that safety officer, to be the liaison to make sure we're doing this effectively. And we're really excited about that. And just 2 final areas I wanted to discuss. We actually started a school safety youth court. PYN a couple of years ago trained the kids over the summer for me to start a youth court. We actually started that in March before the COVID, where we have 440. We set up a youth court on Wednesday night, so we're referring kids into our youth court. And this, again, aligns with the work that Dr. Gray and the team is doing over there. And the second collaboration, we are partnered with the Strategic Partnerships in the school district, and they create a program, Leadership Encouraging Achievement and Development. They recognize that many of our schools needed Black male mentors. And so many of my men, about 15, 20 of my officers, men, African-American men, stood up and said, we will do that. They went through an extensive training, and now they're doing, even in the virtual setting, we're set up in 2 schools where we're working with 2 schools now where my officers are mentoring. They actually, Councilman, you would even last week, they got on the call and the kids were on there for 3 hours. They couldn't even get them off the phone because they were just catching up and talking about all the things that we're doing. And so it's just so exciting to see them doing that work. And so I submit that, we are committed to engaging in a comprehensive process to ensure that my office, Office of School Safety, is meeting the needs of the students we serve. We aim to be effective in our approach and work in a development-informed and trauma-informed lens, and that is the key for us. We firmly believe that restorative practice aligns with our goals of the resolutions that have been put forward, clearly aligns with the goals of Dr. Haidt, who's really given me the charge to change how we do this work, and the goals of the district and the board. And so we're really excited about you allowing us to participate in this process so we can share you downstream what the work of my colleagues are doing in climate and doing in support services, and how that really is manifests itself on the back end. Now, I'm blessed to be able to walk in and got 3 PhDs and a lawyer and all kinds of folks, because, not often you kind of feel like you're on an island by yourself. You know what I mean? But when I walked in, I said, I want to do restorative work, to be able to walk across the hall and have an entire team to say, hey, you know what, Kevin, what do you want to do? It really, really helps us to move this fall forward. So I'll stop there. And again, thank you both. It's great seeing you, Councilwoman Sanchez, on the camera, and appreciate it. I'll stop in if we have any questions.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to Catherine Gilmore Richardson, thank you also, Chief Bethel. You'll always be my Chief Bethel, wherever you are. And I appreciate the collaboration. So I guess for us, how do we make sure, I saw youth courts before, we talked about restorative justice. I actually passed a restorative justice resolution like 10 years ago. And I think where Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is today is, how do we make sure this is not a fad, that it really gets infused, ingrained, supported, integrated, supported, school-based policies at every school, even though the application may be different. What is it that we're going to do different now to maintain it, sustain it, support it, and build it in as part of the culture?
I'll let Abby go, and then I'll come back after Dr. Gray.
Okay. So yes, I definitely understand that concern. It can take sort of a series of fits and starts for something like this to take hold. And over the course of the past 10 years or so, we have learned as a district, along with many other urban districts, how some of the sort of dominant models that have been attempted of restorative practices fall short, particularly in environments like ours. This is my area of research. I was a researcher at the University of Pennsylvania before taking this job, where I studied restorative alternative to punitive discipline. And so I come to this work with a very clear understanding of the ways that existing models needed to be fine-tuned. And we have done that by developing our own program here in the district. We are developing a program that is responsive to the very implementation challenges that have tripped up past implementations. I can say personally, this is the work that I came here to do.
I'm tremendously invested in it, as is my team, as I know is our chief, Karen Lynch, as are others in the district who are driving this work forward. And we have really significant momentum with now 100 schools and more schools contacting us all the time saying, hey, we see how well that's working over there. We want to do it too. So I would say there's a new model that's research informed, that's responsive to the ways that restorative practices have failed in urban environments historically. That is driven by an increasingly aligned and committed team. We now have we've gone from none to 1, 2, 3, 4 full-time coaches, along with training other staff members to support this work, as well as Kevin's officer, as we mentioned. So there's really a considerable investment in making this work. Also, I think it's just the research is clearer and clearer. We know that this is the direction that we need to go. There's not a choice. We have to go toward restorative ways of interacting with kids in schools. So I think the commitment is really significant at this time. And from our office, Councilwoman, what I thought was a great model for us was, as a school safety, is that we just put it into places where folks do not have the court, that we would set it up. So 440 is kind of open to any school at this point that wants to use it. I mean, as they wait to bring on those things, that what Abby's doing, we're actually I was able to get grant funding to do 2 more. So our next area, we're going to go into 2 other areas of the city, because we also want to align it with the Philadelphia Police Department. So it's not just a youth court, because our students are in the community, out of the community, whatever, they're still our students. And so we want to have a process where the police department can also send their students to youth that they want to divert into our youth court. So we're really setting ours up in a geographical area, pretty much following the division, as you're aware of, the 6 divisions of the city. So we would have a youth court in every area. So if I'm a principal at Barton, but I don't have a youth court, and Abby is still working to do that, they can still have some place to refer. And so we're also partnered with the Philadelphia Youth Court and Francine Daniels. So it's a group that's embedded in the city who know the kids, who've been training kids for quite a while. So even when we set out the charge for our kids to come in to be a part of ours, they were already pre-trained. They have been in other schools, middle schools, and they were able to capture that. But I think Abby, myself, and all of us, we're truly champions. I sat in on a session one day, and we were in there crying one day. I mean, when we sit there and let those kids tell their story, and you see the pain they have and the struggles that they have, and really you find out what the true essence of what's going on. When a young kid comes into school with bullets, and you keep asking why he does that, then you find out that he's had 2 people in his life who got killed. And if I got bullets, people think I got a gun. If I got a gun, that's my protection. That really peels it back and says, we really just demonstrates that the young people can do it. They understand it. And they just ask some very basic questions. I know I'm speaking to the choir when I talk to both of you, but I'm just excited about being a part of that, and obviously getting the support from Dr. Graves and Tim to keep it going. We promise you, we're going to go down that road. We're not turning back, that's for sure.
Good. I'm going to recognize Catherine Gilmore Richardson and then Councilmember Brooks. One of the things when we're back in the buildings, when we get this vaccine, one of the ways I like for you to be able to come back to us and tell us how will this be reflective outside the school building, right? One of the challenges that we found in the past is we have a lot of issues that happen in the building. If it happens a block away and the school doesn't report it, it's not their issue. If it happens at the bus stop 5 blocks away, nobody wants to own it and report it. So we can talk about that later as we move going back physically into the building. But this is really going to speak to whether this building is safe, where the children feel safe, and that the community feels that safety-ness that we've created in the school building. So thank you. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Gray, Dr. Banks, and Chief Bethel for your testimony and for the opportunity to meet with all of you prior to this hearing and sharing all the data, the research, and all the new research-informed models that you have implemented at the district, particularly around conflict resolution. My question is centering around how we use those new models and all of the work that you all are implementing. You talked about the social emotional learning, the harm and healing, mediation, all of those other models. How do we, put them all together, which you have done, obviously, that we've seen in this presentation, and ensure that we make that available to every student from grade K through through 12, so that all of our young people are receiving some type of conflict resolution training throughout their entire academic career. How do we do that? Because you talked about some of the programs were just expanded from 10 schools to now 104 schools, but how do we ensure that every student in the district has an opportunity, no matter what grade they're in, to have conflict resolution training?
Yes, that's a great question. So, and it has sort of two levels of answers. The first level is that for some of these services that I've described, we are currently providing them to all students. The social emotional learning initiatives, the community meeting, the integration of social emotional learning and academics, that is a district-wide initiative. So all students now have an opportunity for daily community meeting in their schedule. And we're hearing really great results and a lot of enthusiasm from schools and students and teachers about how that is going. So that is a district-wide initiative for all students. Some of our more intensive services, we determine where those go based on data. So we identify the schools where the greatest need are, and we concentrate the services there. We do this all in alignment with the school's comprehensive planning process that they do in coordination with the state. So we understand, for example, we have a preparation time to sit with the schools, members of my team, members of other teams in the district, and to help schools make really thoughtful, data-driven decisions about what kinds of interventions, training, and supports they need.
Thank you for responding to that question. But I think really what I'm trying to get to is how we implement citywide conflict resolution training for our young people. Do you know how much you all spend on just conflict resolution programming and its availability to our young people now? And is it a funding issue, or what would prevent us or preclude us from implementing a citywide conflict resolution model for all of our students?
I think the biggest barrier there, well, there are a couple of barriers. One is more that we have tremendous diversity within our district, as you know. We have many different contexts. We have many different populations that our schools serve. We have many different school sizes. And so the part of what we offer now is the flexibility for schools to choose approaches and models that make sense for them. So having that sort of diversity of options, I believe, is extremely important. I think trying to shoehorn kind of a one-size-fits-all approach into all schools would lead to a lot of inconsistent implementation. I think additionally, I mean, you definitely alluded to one of our great challenges, which is certainly funding. We have limited staff, we have limited resources, and for that reason, we work very hard to target these services to where they are needed most. That said, as Kevin is saying, we are pushing all schools to move in a restorative direction. We are pushing all schools to emphasize these key skills that underlie conflict resolution. And those, when you ask the question, which is a great question, how much do you spend specifically on conflict resolution? That's really hard to answer because our conflict resolution work is so integrated in with just the work that we do in building students into well-rounded, informed, engaged, happy people. So all of our climate work really goes toward that goal, and that's very much hand in hand with the conflict resolution skills.
Okay, thank you for that response. And I think what I'm trying to determine or ascertain, because what you stated, the individual school will choose sort of the model they use around conflict resolution, how we ensure that every school chooses a model and has the resources to adequately implement that model. I'm just trying to drill down on this a little more because, I think for us, we've seen a definite uptick in violent incidents across our young people, particularly across the city and now with the shelter-in-place order. And, no one can, underscore and highlight how disappointing it is to see our murder rate in the city as well. So how are we ensuring that some form of conflict resolution is integrated in the learning curriculum across schools for every school in the district?
Well, as I mentioned, our push toward district-wide social emotional learning does address that need. If you look on that slide, one of my first slides there where I did that sort of cross-section of the skills, the social emotional learning does in fact address the core skills, most of the core skills that underlie conflict resolution work. That said, we have provided, you asked the question, how do we give schools sort of a clear guidance on what they need to select and how they do it? We have developed a climate framework for schools where we essentially have given them a menu of evidence-based approaches that our offices are prepared to support and support well. And so at every spring, as they go into their state mandated planning process, comprehensive planning process, we sit with them. And this is a process that we implemented this past year, and we're going to be improving it this coming year. We sit with the principals and the leaders of the school, and we say, okay, here are the options for the programming that we're going to support. Let's look at your data. Let's look at your need. Let's look at the intensity and type of service that makes sense for you, and how we can match that with the supports that we provide in our office.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to come back quickly just to ask a question of Chief Bethel.
Okay, I'm just for the purpose of the record, I know Council Member Brooks is in the queue. I'm going to ask the Vice Chair of this committee, Councilmember Gim, who also has a question, to finish the rest of the conversation. I have to travel to a 4 o'clock. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the members. Thank you to Councilmember Gilmore Richardson and to all the partners here. So I'm going to recognize you, and then Councilmember Gim will facilitate the conversation and start continuing with Councilmember Brooks. Thank you.
Absolutely, and happy to do it. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So we will recognize Councilmember Brooks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am really excited to hear about the programming that the school district is planning around restorative practices, social-emotional learning, coming from being a restorative practitioner and doing trainings around the country. I have a few questions in relation to that. One of my questions, are you guys doing like a whole school change model, or are you doing like a segmented framework by school? Meaning, I know that the school safety officers are included as well as teachers, but does it also include all staff in the building for a whole school change? Or is it kind of as determined by the principal? Yes, so the models that we support are multi-tiered models. So in the case of, say, relationships first, the restorative model, there are activities that happen with all students, and there are activities that happen when conflicts arise or for small group interventions. And then there are activities that happen to support the students with the greatest challenges. So these may be students that have had criminal justice involvement, or students that are in danger, have been suspended and are joining the school community. So there's sort of multiple tiers of services, and that model does in fact train everyone. So we have differentiated training. For example, we had monthly trainings all year last year for climate managers and climate staff in the buildings, so that they would understand their role in implementing the program. Schools that are implementing that program also receive whole staff trainings at the beginning of the year, coaching that goes into the classrooms and helps teachers actually implement the circles. We are working on, and this is all slowed a bit by COVID, to be completely transparent, but we also have within that model, adult circles. So for staff to meet in that restorative circle framework, or for staff conflicts to be addressed through a similar process. So that it really becomes part of the lifeblood of the school. PBIS, similarly, it's an all-school model that operates at multiple tiers. Just for clarity, we're talking about teachers' assistants and SSAs as well? Yes. So we have not always done that as a district. We have not always trained everyone, but we believe that is what needs to happen, and we are starting to do that. So that we're talking about training every adult in the building. If it's a PBIS school, that means It's operating on the principle that students should be rewarded and incentivized for behaving in pro-social ways. And so everyone in the building needs to be doing that. When the kid goes into the lunchroom, which can be a time where rowdy behavior happens, we want to have the staff in the lunchroom be trained and equipped to support positive behavior in every environment. We are certainly not all the way there, but we are working on that. We think it's critical. I'm glad to see you guys moving in the right direction. I was getting down to the lunch people as well. My second question, you said that you're doing things differently this time. I know early on the school district invested a large amount of money into training staff around restorative practices and a couple other models. What are we doing differently now to ensure that schools, even before requested by the principal, are equipped with, these skills, or something within your menu of options? So, well, I'll address that in a couple of ways. One, there's been really recent research specifically on restorative practices. There was a big study by the RAND Corporation about 2 years ago out of Pittsburgh Public Schools that really nicely crystallizes some of the ways that restorative practices were going wrong in urban environments. One of the ways was that they weren't tiered models. Very often, like IRP is one of the big models, right? So they would go in, it's not a tiered approach. Well, everything we do is operating around a tiered approach in our schools. So we have to have an approach that addresses all students and the smaller groups and the few. And that's kind of the basic model that we operate in. So it has to fit within that. Additionally, to be perfectly frank, one of the issues that we've encountered in the past was that we had outside providers, and I think external providers can be wonderful partners, and we have some that are, but this work is so contextual. It is so contextual. It is so much about who is the leader and what challenges are the students facing that day and who's the teaching staff and how do they interact with each other. That now we have coaches who are in and out of those buildings and know the staff of those buildings. And so we've decided that many things can be outsourced. We don't think this work can be as effectively outsourced. Did I answer your question? Yes. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. And I have one about this implementation process, how you went from 10 to 100 and some odd number. What is the plan to beef it up to make sure that we're hitting all schools? And I'm really excited to hear, and I've heard my children participate in the morning meeting pieces. That's the best news I've heard all day. So that's really good. That's something I've really pushed for as like the basis to build community in schools. But what is the plan to kind of beef that up currently, and as well as when we enter schools again? It's one thing when we're out of the building and the pressure of the school day isn't there, like trying to get the morning circles, getting the kids out of line and all that. Yeah. But are there any plans towards helping support educators in continuing this process and beefing it up to include all schools within the district? Okay, so as far as our return plan and transitioning back into schools, I actually believe, and many educators have said this, that community meeting is going to be critical to that transition back in. I also believe that if a teacher can run a community meeting virtually, they can run it. They are going to fly with this when they get back into a live setting, because it's one thing to do it with kids turning off their cameras and flipping upside down in their chairs and all of those things that are happening on screen versus being live in a room full of kids. And I know that our teachers are extremely excited to have the opportunity to take some of these practices that we've been building virtually and translate them back into the live classroom. As far as the question of all schools, I think that, and I understand that's sort of the crux of part of the issue here. I think that we have such a diversity of needs in our district. There are schools in our district that don't need a lot more than what they are already doing. And there are schools in our district that need more. And so given the resources that we have as a city, as a public, district, we have to prioritize and we have to think about what are the skills and the foundations that we believe every child needs. And those are the ones that we're providing in that social emotional work. What are the extra supports that are needed in some environments, given the particular challenges that those kids are facing? And that's where we put that work as well. Now, that's not to say that another school might not say, hey, we want to do restorative practices. We think everyone should do restorative practices in one form or another. However, in terms of the really focused, intensive efforts that I'm describing here, those really do need to be responsive to the needs of the community. Thank you so much. And I was wondering if once this is over, we have an opportunity to have copies of the information that was submitted in reference to the slides and the programming across school district programming, because I would like to take a deeper look at it and maybe submit other questions later on directly with you or Mr. Bethel. Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Brooks. I wondered if I could ask Kevin Bethel to come back on. I wanted to have a few questions. Good afternoon, Kevin.
How are you?
Pleasure to see you again. I wonder if we could have a little bit of dialogue, a little bit more about the school resource officers and how we're using this time since so many, since school is not in session formally in person, and whether, a little bit about the role of the SROs right now, and also whether you're taking this time to talk about like a realignment or a review of duties or any kind of training opportunities that the SROs are going through. There's been a lot of debate nationally about, and I know the district has done this, about, really changing the role and the engagement of the SROs with young people. We know that from past practice that we've done is that, different organizations and groups have kind of met, especially youth groups have met with SROs at different points in time to talk about training and ways in which conflicts go wrong between an interaction between a school resource officer and a student, and why and how it escalates from different perspectives, and whether there's some of that work, and if you could talk to us a little bit about it.
Yeah, yes, and thank you for the opportunity to do that. First, I'll start by saying the challenge is we're not school SROs either, So what has also been a conflict, a kind of a disconnect is the SROs are sworn officer, which we are not, and obviously the police officers, we have always been school safety officers, but somehow we took on this posture and used the name police, and have done that for almost 2 decades. So it's one thing to say it, but the reality is it's going to take a while for it to be. My men and women are school safety officers, and so what we have done, and I told them, I shared this maybe even with my colleagues, we are in a unique opportunity that the clock is somewhat stopped for us, right? Because we're in this hybrid. We're not even hybrid, we're virtual. So we have a unique opportunity where the system normally have to do it while we're in motion, to take advantage of this time period to really, really lay into our work. And so what we have done is one, obviously change the name, formally changing the name to school safety officers and who we are. We are not, so we don't have a power to arrest anyone. We have relied on the Philadelphia Police Department to do that, and in many cases should not have been doing that. We should not have been calling our colleagues in the police department. Much of the work we can do internally. So we started that right away, changing the job description. We're working on a new protocol for all of our school officers, so it is consistent across all of the schools that we're in. What do we want that person, him or her, to be in that school setting? Restorative work and conflict resolution work, and always looking from a lens of trauma and looking from an issue of adolescent development. There was a lot of argument about the uniform, and you're spending money on uniforms, but that was our reality. If we want to, then we have to display it, right? It has to be part of a continuum. Well, it wasn't just I'm changing your uniform and all of a sudden things are going to change, but that's not going to happen. So we go to a softer uniform. We will be in golf shirts and khaki pants. We have a nice sky blue. It's great on the eyes. And hopefully the kids will love it, right? And so they'll come in looking different. We even looked at the metal detector. We listened to the voice of the kids around the metal detector. I met with my colleagues in the Philadelphia Police Department. We will not arrest any child who comes into school with a weapon unless it's a gun. All those kids will be diverted. We made a hard decision. We got together as a team and said, this didn't make any sense. And so no child will be arrested coming into school. We got new signage.
and about when they come in. Amnesty containers, as the board had really pushed us to say, do better in that space. So we have amnesty containers. And then we really started to move down that track of revamping our policies. I was able to bring in a outside consultant who's working with us going through all of our policies. When do we cuff? Why do we cuff children? Do we need to cuff children? What age do we need? All of those things that really, because we have to go across the entire platform to say, what are we doing and how are we physically demonstrating we're different? So I don't need a cuff a 10-year-old child. Absolutely not. And we build these carve-outs. Well, if they're acting in a way that what do you mean acting in a way? What does that mean? And so really not leaving that for some arbitrary decision to say, hey, we're not going to cuff a child at this certain age. And that's something that's going across the nation. And so we really are working through that all the way through our process as to where we are. And then the biggest issue, we created a training bureau within our agency, because it's all about training, and more training. We didn't even have, as my colleagues across the district had PDE days. We trained on the days it was off, and that was it. Well, how can you keep an organization really focused and lean into that if you don't? And so the training that I described in my testimony with Drexel University, the training we're doing. So they were talking about earlier about Dr. Banks was talking about the training around wellness. I took a day and had my men and women spend a time in wellness training. They thought it was the craziest thing you ever can imagine. But think about that. For the first time, somebody thought about them. Because if they feel better, they're going to feel better in how they deal with the people, the kids that they involve. And so I know I'm moving pretty quickly, but we're really looking from data. We never even use data to drive how we move. What decides whether we put an officer in a school? Some of my officers are in a school, councilwoman, just because this neighborhood's unsafe. It has absolutely nothing to do with the schools. The school is phenomenal. But every time they step out their door, they walk into this mess. And so how do we protect them from the outside when they get in there to feel safe? And so it really is a indoctrinating. But I will say this in my closing. I could not be more proud of the men and women who are working for me now. Because what I realized when I came here with some biases. It's going to be this. They have flipped me on my head because what they recognize is we don't want to do that. We don't want to be a law enforcement heavy. We want to work with kids. The majority of them come from the neighborhood. The majority of them have kids who go to our schools. A lot of them have worked in the school setting before and has gone from, part-time positions because they were looking for something full-time. And so when I open up that lid, oh my God, it's boiling over. I can't give them enough training and enough supports. And so I just really think that we're in a good place. And I think I've made this push to say we want to be a national model. We want everybody to call and say, what are you doing in Philly? And I think they're really positioned to take us there. And with the supports we get, and I think we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, the two areas that I wanted to check in a little, the couple of areas that I wanted to check in a little bit with is, as you said, we are interested in being the model. I dealt with, a school officer, who had a horrible time, a tragic situation at Washington High School after witnessing the death of, an individual, a counselor. There's been a lot that they see. Among the things we know that has been at issue with the police department is just making sure that, you have to affirmatively sometimes, if there's a dramatic situation, of course, they're required to go in and see somebody. But even so, we usually only deploy 1 to 2 police school safety officers at a school. They have to deal with a lot. Obviously because of the role that they play, it's often very conflict heavy. It can be, just de-escalation all the time. And so there's a lot of pressure on many of them. And so if there are ways that you are affirmatively getting them an opportunity for wellness, so it doesn't happen on the PD days, if there's a protocol that kicks in every time, a major incident might happen at a school, I think that would be helpful to hear about. So that would be one area. I think the other area that I wanted to say is whether you're doing more dialogue with students. Again, like I said, I think, we can do a ton of training, but you know this, having been at the police department for such a long time. You don't know, as much as you get trained, you get faced with situations that are unexpected, that come at a terrible time. You're not in a great place, and that young person is definitely not in a great place. And things can go awry. And so some of it is about, is there like a means in a healthy way and in a productive way to review practices and why things escalate, and then what options, because what we know about de-escalation is it goes against every single fiber of our being. Overwhelmingly, you're an authority figure. You're expected to, have a certain amount of deference. And here's this young person absolutely not doing that. And, potentially, there's others who are watching. This is not just one individual. This is not a one-to-one interaction. This is clearly like a question of power, and how it's interpreted from a young person's eyes. So are there opportunities for your team members now, while school's not in full session right now, and so it's not just a constant, like one-to-one, engagement? Are there opportunities to expand and increase dialogue with young students, sometimes ones who have who come into contact with your team members more frequently, but to talk about how de-escalation and escalation kind of looks from different perspectives in order to strategize a little bit better? So that would be that second area.
Yeah, so I think those are all good points and things that we're going to be working on. But just give you an example. We did, meet with, when we were developing our concept around the metal detectors and the signage. We met with Dr. Height has an advisory group. We met with his young people. We actually worked with Dr. Damon, who was on earlier, with some of her kids over her school. We worked with a couple of other groups to really we brought the kids down here to get them to inform us, and they actually even participated and help the signage. What should the sign look like? Now some of the signs are crazy, but we worked through it, right? But so we recognize that you voice. I met with Herb Ed and continue to work with them. I even allowed them to even look at our job description to kind of get a sense of what does it look like from your viewpoint as a young person. Student union, even though they come at me, but I also reach out to the group and met with them, and Dr. Height was there in one of those meetings as well. We recognize that you voice is going to be important. So as we go through this re-envisioning process, we clearly believe that we're going to be using, and I think that's a great opportunity even in that space, Councilwoman, to bring them in to talk about what that looks like. There is some programming out there we could do, but we definitely see that as part of our charge, and that everything we do comes from a youth base, and their youth voice is important. And we're aligning with, on climate side, Tyler Wims, who's doing a lot of that work with the young people in the schools, aligning with his work to make sure we definitely, we even talked about having an LGBTQ liaison officer. I have an officer who's from the community, who's willing to step forward to say, how do we look at it from that lens? And so we have a lot of work to do, but that is great. And then to your earlier question, I think what we also have to do with my men and women is to tell them, before, just like anything else, they thought they had to do it by themselves, but safety is a total, it's an everybody thing. And so my men and women in that space have to start to rely on climate and other services in the space, so they don't sit there and say, my only resolution to this is me going in a one-on-one with the kid. When I have partners all about the building, we didn't do a good job of system mapping as what else is here besides me? Yes. And I think because of that, we've not been able to fill that gap. And so I think the more we educate them on, your school has all these services, you can go down and talk to the counselor before you do anything with this kid, or you find somebody in climate who has a relationship or a teacher, is a better process. So we think that that's a good place to be. I do want to know that Dr. Banks wants to jump back in here because he had something in what I said or something, but I'll keep going. But I know she indicated she wanted to jump back in.
Yes, please. Dr.
And then talking about adult self-care, adult wellness, I actually had one of Kevin's officers who was, dealing with, I think, a situation and then with some personal stuff, and he reached out. And I connected him with our employee assistance program. And so that's something that we're also connecting all of our staff, but of course, also Kevin's officers who are dealing with a lot, to how to ask for help and then how to connect them with help. As it's something that, as Kevin just said, they may feel like they have to hold it all in themselves, and they don't. And so that's something we've been working on this year.
I mean, if I could just, again, just having dealt with a number of schools where we have a lot of incidences of issues, we all know that while the overall percentage of students with IEPs and special needs may be like 12 or 13% or 15% maybe system-wide, when you drill down into our neighborhood high schools, you're going to see a significantly higher percentage of students. These are young people who really need to have a de-escalated means of working together. Like if we go at them with, what we think would be standard operating practices, they may make sense. They look great on paper. They're, careful. What we have often found is that people in a crisis situation don't know how to make the best decisions, no matter how much training they have. Like it's really hard to do in a crisis to just go back and remember your training. One of the things that's been a really big model is sort of the approach that has happened through emergency rooms and ERs, where the death rates used to skyrocket. But now, everyone knows before you go into an ER, you take your temperature, you check your blood pressure, you ask X, Y, and Z, and you start to go through this list of things. Similarly, I feel like what's been lacking at many of our comprehensive and neighborhood high schools where we see or tend to see a lot more conflicts occur is that it's exactly what you said. The teachers should know, especially because many of them know who the students are who have special needs or might have a past history or all of this. They should know that you don't immediately pull in the school safety officer to deal with the situation. In a crisis, that's just the number that they call, and so it's kind of like you want some kind of a system that says in an emergency, these are the 5 things that we should try to figure out how to handle within a crisis. If it's a fight within a classroom, here's the 5 things, immediately call X, Y, and Z, and then these people will come in. So it's like we want a team to come in. It's why we funded the STEP program, why we got, additional counselors and a school psychologist to be on teams at a number of different schools. I want to know that those people are integrated into the school resource officer and that there's a protocol to some extent. And I know more than anybody else at the district, Kevin, I'm going to feel like your folks are on the line here, 24/7. They're dealing with this. At the end of the day, they're no matter what we say, they're going to be the first group of people that we call, right? And it's why I feel like you're our best shot at finally getting some of these standard protocols through that can help de-escalate situations and don't continue to escalate. I don't want to continue, too long on this, but would still encourage you that 12 years after South Philadelphia High School, X number of years after MLK, after George Washington High School, where a school police officer had a heart attack after, after a huge melee at the school, we still don't the ways in which we handle crisis situations in schools range from really great outcomes to anything goes. There's still not a standard operating procedure. And I do think school safety officers need help. Teachers need reminders, this is the protocol that we follow in an emergency situation. We know what to do in case of a tornado. We know what to do in case of an intruder. We really do need to know what to do in cases of our children are in distress. And we need to know what are some of the standard things that we ought to be engaging in. So I know this is a longer conversation that we have to have.
I do want to quickly say, to your point, we are doing that. We just created a threat assessment protocol and started training all of our school principals, assistant principals, counselors in those cases where a kid is in crisis and they say, I'm going to blow up the building or I'm going to F you up, I'm going to do that. We now respond to the school, assess that, determine whether it's a transient threat or because when we looked at the data, 95% of those kids were not getting charged. And it was just, so we now, to your point, saw that there was 50, 60 kids were being arrested every year for a threat. And most of those were transient threats. And so this year we'll be able to divert those kids, respond, and we put in a protocol to address those. So we're definitely starting to do what you said, pick away, keeping my men and women away from code of conduct issues is the first point of we should be in those code of conduct. So not to belabor the point, but we are going down that path, and you raised some good points that we could even add to that work.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Ms. Banks. I think Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, you are next.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair, and all really important points that I think we need to further elaborate on, as you stated. And I just wanted to again thank Chief Bethel for his work. But I wanted to ask you a very quick question around the school safety officers relative to mental health professionals. Do they interface with actual mental health specialists and professionals? Just for the record, I wanted you to be able to put that on the record. Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair.
Yeah, so we definitely see that as a gap. We are looking at some of the training. I know some of my men and women get mental health first aid for youth. I think Rachel Holzman and members of the team on the climate and school support side have been doing that. But that training has seemed to have been limited to my new officers coming in and not to the entirety of the organization. So we will be opening that up as we rebuild our training. And now actually the virtual space has really been a blessing for us. So we see this as a great way for us to get training because my officers are all over the place and we really don't have a training headquarters. But we definitely saw that. We checked that as a place that we really need to and lean into as it relates to mental health, trauma, and all of that. And so every Wednesday we'll be actually pulling them off the road and giving them training on those topics. But that is an area that we need to expand. So some of my men and women have gotten training, but we most of them need the training, and that's an area that we're going to be filling the gap with.
No, thank you very much for that response. And I think about that too, because we don't know when the date will be because we've had such an uptick in COVID cases. But as we think about when we eventually will be back into our school buildings, everything that our young people have experienced and have gone through as a result of COVID-19 and sheltering in place and potentially needing additional supports. I just wanted to put that out there for the record. Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. One last question for Chief Bethel. Our kids have been dealing so much with the gun violence in the city, and I know that among the things that have been occurring has not, obviously shootings are constantly on our minds and what's happening to young people. But I think in dialogue with Superintendent Height, we've just been talking about escalating violence against young people in general, whether it's from assaults or, from stabbings and other types of things that don't necessarily, aren't in the gun violence category. Are the school safety officers at all used to reach out to the families, or who actually goes to reach out to families of those who have experienced violence? Does that not come through your team at all, or?
Yeah, Dr. Banks is on here. So we get the initial reporting coming from the police department. We create a report, and then we send it over to support services, Karen's team, and Dr. Banks. Maybe if you want to jump her back in here, they then activate their trauma response team. I don't know if Dr. Banks, if you're still there, if you wanted to.
I'm here.
Okay, I know you're there.
So once we receive notice, our team activates. So our prevention intervention liaisons contact the school. We assess for siblings and other close members to see if other schools need support as well. So we bring in their liaisons as well. And then between the liaisons, the school counselors, the STEP program, we also, survey who has the closest relationship with the family as well, right? To then contact to determine what else is needed in the moment, as well as ongoing support.
And then I have actually today we're piloting. I have some of my officers out today doing wellness checks to see because some of the kids are not engaged. I mean, some are, and so we, some of the superintendents looked and said, hey, we have some of our folks they're not engaged. Could you go out and kind of do a wellness check and ask them to call? And so we're testing that model today to see if we can really expand our work and really do that across the spectrum of the district to help those places where young people are just not engaging and maybe need somebody to knock on their door and say, hey, we do care about you and where you at. So we're hoping that we'll see where that goes.
If there's one thing I've heard, it's been a lot that that the district will try to send people out to the families, especially when it involves a school district child. And so it's interesting because I think it seems like a very interesting model compared to what the city's doing. And I'm wondering, like, I'd love to keep in touch with you about that. Are these briefings daily that you do, Chief Bethel?
Yeah, every incident, shooting incident, we get that immediate notification. If it involves a child, student, charter school, or we send that over to Katrina, the team in charter side. But every incident involving a student, and we go up into our advanced ages because some of our kids go up, and and then we have some older adults as well who are involved in programming.
Right. We also take it another level. So if there is someone in their late 20s who's a victim of crime, mid to late 20s, we will then check to see if there's any siblings related to that victim, even though they aren't currently a student. Again, our goal is to help students as best as possible.
We don't normally, I think as our district, and I'll recognize Abigail in just a minute, but our district district council members do get policing data. Is it possible to aggregate, and not to get specifics, we don't need to know names and all of that, but is it possible to get some aggregated data on the number of young people involved in the public schools on either like a biweekly or bi-monthly basis for the education committee? Is that difficult to compile? Does that violate anything? It doesn't have to, I don't need names or specifics, but I think it would help to know like a little bit about the types of involvement, and then how many kids we're actually talking about within the school district, monthly or twice a month or something.
Council, I don't know if I'm authorized to say, but we'll take that back and discuss and get your response.
Yeah, that would help. Thank you. Ms. Gray?
I just wanted to give an example that might illustrate how our offices, Kevin's, Jamie's, my work, Rachel Holtzman's, we all collaborate and work together. So recently with the killing of Walter Wallace, we had students who were directly affected, family members. We also had schools that were directly affected where students witnessed things that occurred that day. And so, of course, Kevin's office, they're first line responders. Jamie's office, the prevention and intervention office, is responding to the crisis needs, reaching out to families, reaching out to affected schools. And at the same time, my team developed community meeting lesson plans for teachers at every grade level to begin a conversation the following morning with their students about what had happened. So we all work together to sort of provide that support at all these different levels. And we're constantly working to sort of strengthen and streamline that communication and that support. But we think that support in a crisis situation needs to come at all of those levels.
Yeah, I think that's a great model. And it's one that it's one of the reasons why I'd like to just track it a little bit more closely, because I think it is a really important, I think the district has been, really thoughtful about making sure they know which students are impacted, surrounding kind of the school, and making sure that people, can be informed. And so I think it's an important model for us to take care of, to monitor, support if there's ways that we can do it, and maybe model after in the city end. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will the clerk please call the next panel?
We have Theron Pride, Dr. Kathleen Reeves, Tamir Harper, Hillary Leonardopoulos, Taisheed Hatchell, Kaylee Suarez, Marie Patterson. Tamir and Hillary are not present but have submitted written testimony.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience.
Madam Vice Chair, are you looking for me to start first, or?
I think that would be great.
Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you. Theron Pride, Senior Director, Office of Violence Prevention. And Madam Vice Chair, if it's okay with you, we have submitted written testimony. I won't take the time to read that. I think I could just sum it up by saying, again, what you heard from Kevin Bethel, Dr. Gray, and Dr. Banks really supports the Office of Violence Prevention view on conflict resolution training, really being trauma informed, recognizing that there's a wealth of experts here in the City of Philadelphia who've looked at children exposed to violence and how that complicates the picture of conflict in the City of Philadelphia, and certainly the restorative practices, really talking more about healing as well as accountability. And so in the Office of Violence Prevention, we're certainly supportive and appreciate the committee as well as Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. We really appreciate you bringing this issue and resolution forward. This will certainly help and support the work that we're trying to do to address gun violence. As many of you know, the Philadelphia Police Department often cites an argument as a reason for the shootings that we see. So I just appreciate the time. Thank you.
Eric, who is the second name after Mr. Pride?
The next name is Dr. Kathleen Reeves.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairperson Quinona Sanchez, Vice Chairperson Jim, and members of the committee. I would also like to thank Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson for the invitation to provide testimony. I too will make my testimony brief. My name is Kathleen Reeves. I am a professor of pediatrics and senior associate dean for health equity at the Lewis Katz School of Medicine at Temple University. I am an academic clinician and researcher. My job is to bring new knowledge on how to better treat disease. HIV was once a death sentence, now it is a chronic disease. In the past, society criminalized people with tuberculosis. Now we have a medicine to treat it as the infection that it is. As it has already been said, we all need to turn to science and research and look at what works to prevent and treat violence. We haven't discussed how violence functions as an infectious disease. Violence is as contagious as any other infectious disease. The Centers for Disease Control and the National Institute of Health have demonstrated this for over a decade. It is quite clear that the solution to gun and interpersonal violence must be based in public health, working the problem the way the CDC would handle an epidemic. We have all seen with COVID-19, when we move people away from a contagion, the spread lessens. When people are exposed, infection spreads. We know the same is true of violence. These facts are true in our streets and in our schools. In our streets, Philadelphia has seen a 42% increase in gun violence this year. We must look at what is working and what isn't, while we invest in proven, research-proven programs. Cure Violence is an international program based on a proven public health approach, engaging a trauma-informed conflict resolution model. It's considered so well studied that it carries a strong evidence-based descriptor by the Pew Foundation, as well as a number of other evidence-based clearinghouses. It decreases violence. We work together, city and university, and we study Philadelphia Cure Violence in the 22nd Police District. We saw 2.5 fewer shootings per 10,000 people per month. That's a 30% reduction. Our credible messenger outreach workers are trained in conflict resolution to de-escalate high-risk situations. Our outreach workers are trained by the people who developed the program initially. Like we have done together in the past, we must come together and implement evidence-based programs that work, and we must reproduce those programs with fidelity. What about our schools? Philadelphia experiences high rates of school violence. Since 1998, medicine has known that children who experience significant trauma are more likely to be perpetrators and victims of violence. These are not bad kids. These are kids who bad things happen to. Centers for Disease Control, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, many other professional organizations have all stated that true evidence-based, trauma-informed conflict resolution is imperative to stopping interpersonal violence, gun violence, and school shootings. We also know that we cannot re-traumatize our children who have already been traumatized. Chief Bethel stated this very well. We cannot punish. We have to use proven techniques. that take into account of how science is affecting their brains. Just imagine you're in a forest and a bear's chasing you. Your body works really well. Your adrenaline will go up, your cortisol will go up. These are chemicals that will make you react, not think, not reason, not try to resolve the conflict. These are substances that will make you run and fight. It's great to have this happen if you're in a forest and a bear is chasing you. But what if that equivalent of a bear comes home every night? You have fear every night. You have that response every day. When a young brain is bathed in adrenaline and cortisol, it changes. We see these changes in children who have experienced significant trauma. The parts of the brain most important in learning and resolving conflict, in socializing and interacting, aren't functioning. When this happens, adult or child, the response to fear and stress is violence. Temple University is working with local community stakeholders and our local schools to create and implement Temple Phases, Philadelphia Healthy and Safe Schools, an evidence-based trauma-informed conflict resolution program directed at changing this landscape. In my testimony, I highlighted the story of two children that we encountered. I won't go into depth. The first was Michael. Michael was raised by his grandmother. He suffered amazing trauma throughout his life. He was seen as a bad kid in school. He got into altercations. He even threw a desk. He was brought to the principal's office. He was expelled. His grandmother didn't know what to do. As we sit here today, Michael is incarcerated. Malia is also a young woman who's growing up in North Philadelphia. We met her when she was entering the 7th grade. She already was asked to leave 2 schools. She was entering 7th grade in our Phases trauma-informed school. When she had her first altercation, she got into a fight with another young woman in art class. She wasn't immediately taken to the principal's office. Instead, she was asked if she wanted to go to a restoration room to cool off. I was given a bottle of water, a gentle pat on the back, and time to reflect on my behavior. That's what Malia remembered. Even the school cop talked to me calmly and helped me discuss what I had done, just as Captain Bethel had said. This is well-implemented trauma-informed conflict resolution in action. And there were consequences. She had a 3-day in-school suspension, but she used that time to learn about why she acted as she did, to learn about the trauma that she experienced, and to keep up on her schoolwork. And now she is a school leader and doing extremely well. She believes she is worthy. That is the first step in helping her move towards her journey. So what does all of this mean? I applaud you for having this hearing, for understanding the science behind violence, its spread, the damage it causes, and the role of conflict resolution plays in prevention, intervention, and treatment. If we want to see Philadelphia streets and Philadelphia schools to be safe, we have to deal with the trauma Philadelphians have experienced. We have to model and teach tools to resolve conflict in a trauma-informed way before the violence erupts. It's imperative that we produce programs like Cure Violence and techniques like trauma-informed work with fidelity, quality assurance, and ongoing evaluation, constantly staying up to date on the most current research, while we contribute our own experience to the literature so that other schools and communities can benefit. I encourage you to engage and partner with educators, providers, academicians, and research across Philadelphia and in our universities to support this important work. I encourage you to take advantage of the rich academic strength in healthcare and in education that is part of Philadelphia's identity. We must turn to proven programs and techniques that work in the same way we have for the treatment of any other disease. We want to help. Together, we must provide all Philadelphians in their communities and in their schools, pre-K through 12, with safe spaces filled with people that truly understand childhood trauma, adult trauma, and the contagious nature of violence. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and please let us know how we can help.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reeves. Will the clerk please call the next name?
Taisheed Hatchell.
Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody. My apologies for the delay. I actually stepped outside.
for situations going on inside the house.
You're right on time. Thank you.
I'm going to read our selection for our youth court process. We did touch briefly on it before. I'm just going to read what we implement and what we stand for, just to give an understanding of what we go through on a day-to-day basis, how we go through our cases and stuff of such. My name is Cadet Major Hatchell Lawrence. I am the judge for youth court at Philadelphia Military Academy. Here at Philadelphia Military Academy, we are a collective group of students, 10th through 12th grade, who have come together to help students better themselves. We are writing in support of youth court because it helps other teens who have had problems in school. Instead of getting suspended, they have opportunities to correct their behavior. Youth court is an important process because it helps teenagers to become motivated to become better citizens in the future. One of the positive aspects of youth court is that it is non-punitive. Instead, it is restorative, which results in favorable outcomes. Youth court is also another way for young people to feel comfortable accepting the disposition for other improper actions. Youth court benefits the members of the court by encouraging us to develop, us to use, my nose is running, to use our leadership skills, manners, and etc. Also, youth court teaches participants by guidelines in the way to be helpful and negotiative. The respondent, which would be who was reprimanded or sent to youth court that day, will turn and will have to receive or an outcome, a disposition of his or her own. They are not just told that they are wrong, they receive an explanation which helps them fix a problem going towards the future. A positive example of something that happened in our court is when a cadet accepted responsibility and apologized for his actions after conversating with our youth court members and analyzing his behavior. He decided he will do better and make an effort and complete the disposition imposed upon him by the court. Although this is our first year in youth court, we are very proud of our accomplishments so far. We look forward to many more in the future. Finally, I don't just want to take up all of our time. I'm sorry. Youth court works in many different ways. You guys can come and sit in on a class yourself if you would like. It is ran by Colonel Gallagher. You can contact Mr. John Papiano for if you have any questions. Again, I am the judge for youth court. I oversee our respondents daily, and we give a clear, and what we expect is very specific, and we do have a great outcome in what we expect.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me, and thank everybody on the board. This was a great process to be a part of. I look forward to more of it.
Thank you so much for your work. Will the clerk please read the next name on the panel?
Kaylee Suarez.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kaylee Suarez. I am 12 years old. I'm currently in 7th grade attending Junior Ada Park Academy. 2 years ago, our school started a group section that offered conflict resolution and emotional support. My life has not been easy after I lost my father to suicide. I felt very angry and did not know how to express my feelings. My emotions were like a roller coaster. I did not know how to act, and every time someone spoke and I didn't agree, I'll be ready to fight regardless of the other person's gender. My conflicts with other people were getting me in a lot of trouble in school. I was also having issues with completing class assignments and being focused in class. When I was invited to be part of a conflict resolution meeting with students that I had conflicts with, I agreed because I wanted another opportunity to be friends with some of the people who I had conflicts with. I did not have an idea how deep and how big this conflict resolution meeting were going to impact me in my future. The conflict resolution meeting had a positive influence in my life. I was able to put all my conflicts aside with a positive interaction between myself and the other people. I was also able to see myself as a totally different person and shape my personality to become a better person. I had a chance to see other people's point of view and understand other people's personalities. In this conflict resolution meeting, I was able to trust someone who was my enemy by expressing our feelings and thoughts and making sure I stood between us to resolve the conflict. I was able to heal my negativity of behavior by discovering new situations to conflicts. At Junior Park Academy, we put relationships first and build community. Every morning, every class begins with the community circles. We learn about each other and our feelings. We deal with our feelings and talk about our problems and issues in society. We learn how to talk to one another and respect each other's thoughts and feelings. One huge thing I learned is no matter how angry you are, don't take it out on other people. Try to put yourself in other people's shoes and understand why they feel the way they do. As a class, we came to class early. No one wanted to miss the morning meeting. Attendance is perfect. We became a strong family, investing in helping and celebrating each other. In conclusion, the conflict resolution circle and community meeting had become a model in dealing with problems and feelings in my life and many others. I was able to express my feelings without being angry. I'm able to find solutions to any conflicts that life presents. I'm also able to help others to find solutions to their problems. I am a leader in and outside of the school environment. I have developed a better relationship with people surrounding me. Focus on community and building and resolution circles has helped us to decrease the drama, conflicts, suspensions, detentions, and physical assaults in our school. The resolution meeting has impacted my life in a positive way, and I hope that it can do the same for other children in other schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. I know there might be another panelist, but I know a couple of council members just wanted to send a special word to you, but this is one of those things where we wish we were here in person, because we would absolutely just shake your hand, high five you, give you a hug for the tremendous work that you've done, Kaylee. And I know Juniata Park Academy is so proud to have you there. And we are just really honored that you have just spoken beautifully to the work that you're doing and how you think about things. And at 12 years old, just like going out there and speaking your voice and just doing so with so much confidence gives us so much hope and joy and pride in our city. So thank you, Kaylee. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, and I know Councilmember if any other council members wanted to say a quick word to Kaylee.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair. I just too wanted to echo those sentiments and say thank you, Kaylee, for your testimony today, but more importantly for the work that you have done. I was just filled with emotion and overwhelmed listening to you, and just so happy that you could join us this afternoon to share your truth and to share your story. So I just wanted to give kudos to you and say thank you, and know that if there's anything that we can do for you at any time, you feel free to reach out to us and we will be there. We want to wrap our arms around you and continue to support you as you move forward to a very bright future. I know it's real bright. You may be my boss one day. So we just want to wrap our arms around you and appreciate you and support you in any way that we can. Thank you, Kaylee.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yeah, I just want to add, I was too so very moved by your boldness and your braveness just to come and tell your story and talk about how this program has helped you become a super duper young person. So I want to thank you so much and let you know we're looking forward to see what you do next, Kaylee. And I'll be paying attention over there at Juniata Park. Some great things are coming from over there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. We're so incredibly proud of you, Kaylee. Thank you. Are there any additional people to testify for this panel to our clerk?
Marie Patterson.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to Councilwoman Kathy Richardson just for the importance of this discussion. My comments are going to be around resolution number 200395. So a little off topic, but I guess I'm still going to get it out. So there is data, and then there's things like boots on the ground, like myself. I hope that my testimony will give you an insight of what's really going on in the school district of Philadelphia. My name is Marie Patterson. I'm a proud alumni of Morrell Dobbins High School, a parent of a graduate of the class of 2020, a business owner in the community, and the chair of Dobbins Advisory Committee. I am here to give you testimony on behalf of the Dobbins community, and I represent all the affirmation roles. For the past 5 years, I have had an inside view of what instruction is like for the career and technical education students in the school district of Philadelphia. I have witnessed as the criteria for admission was removed in 2017. The arts, humanity, and other elective and CTE courses were stripped from the students, as well as most recently scheduled requirements for math and English interventions have been placed on some of the CTE schools. As a businesswoman in the city, I certainly understand how and why we lost the opportunity to welcome Amazon to the city of Philadelphia. It's simple. We do not operate our career in technical education as it should be. We lack the ability to demonstrate we are preparing the next generation of employees. In Philadelphia, CTE schools are treated like traditional high schools, placing the primary focus on academics. Workforce has indicated that the primary skills needed for future jobs will require skilled laborers. They are looking for individuals who possess the 21st century skills like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy, flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. Nowhere in this list do you see English or math or a college degree. While I'm here speaking for Dobbins, my comments serve to address career and technical education across the school district of Philadelphia. I recommend that if there's to be consideration for alignment of the curriculum to support post-COVID employment as well as conflict resolution, you offer and assist the school district with the following things. Number one, we need to restore the minimal criteria for admissions to CTE. This will ensure that students who enter the program are committed to preparing for the workforce. They also getting the credits needed for college. The criteria prior to its removal was a C average, good attendance, and no serious discipline issues. These are all necessary in the workplace and can build upon and as they matriculate through high school. Number two, maybe removing the strict block scheduling that focus on academic remediation interventions in the 9th grade and 10th grade. Allow students entering CTE programs as freshmen and sophomores the opportunity to develop and create an innovation that originally led them to apply for the career and technical school in the first place. Number three, encourage all businesses in the city to create paid as well as non-paid internships for students and CTE throughout the school. Philadelphia Youth Network has programs and funding to support this, and CTE students should be placed first. This will help create a pipeline of experienced workforce and help to keep students out of trouble. We have seen the impact of not having meaningful activities for youth. Too many people getting shot. We have had 2 to 3 Dobbins this school year. Number 4, stop testing 11th and 12th grade students on pointless standardized testing. Students in CTE should be focusing on the NOCTI test, the ASVAP, the SAT, or the ACT, or the AccuPlacers. These are assessments that will yield greater return for the students and their families rather than testing on Keystone Assessment and STARS, given only to further increase the achievement gap. It is well documented that these standardized tests are racially and culturally biased, yet we still rank them and file with students in school. We are saying our children, we don't need to continue calling our children below and basic or underperforming. Lastly, I close with Pennsylvania Department of Education provides CTE subsidy as early as 9th grade, and now I learned as early as 5th grade. I have met with parents, students, and Dobbins roster chair and administrators in regarding this. There is no reason or explanation why School District of Philadelphia does not allow 9th grade students at the CTE school to begin their CTE training as soon as they start high school. Benefits of this move far outweigh the cost. It is recommended that that we explore this to generate additional revenue to the school budget as we begin to prepare the students for early college and career tech. I thank you for the opportunity of speaking, and I'm willing to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patterson, and thank you for the tremendous work that you do at Dobbins along with Principal Damon. It means a lot, and I know this will be an ongoing conversation that we have with the district. A lot of us are keeping this in mind, especially as we take a look at the coming year. I'm not sure what will be able to be done given that the current application process is already underway, but we'll continue to be in dialogue with you. Ms. Patterson came in as I believe, public comment, but I did want to give a chance for our council members to ask questions of our panelists. So if there were questions of our panelists, and forgive me, but I think Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, did you have a question for the panel?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just wanted to quickly note for the record and thank Tamir Harper from Urban Education Advocates for his work around conflict resolution. I wanted to put that on the record. I know he had to go. And also to the PFT and Hillary for submitting written testimony in support of these resolutions and the continued work that we are committed to doing together, particularly with our students and our teachers in mind. And also wanted to thank the students. I know we all spoke with Kaylee already, but Taisheed as well for the work that he's doing around the youth course. I wanted to uplift that work. And Ms. Patterson, I wanted to thank you for the recommendations for the application process. And as our Vice Chair stated, we're in process. That application period is happening as we speak. So we will ensure that we look at the set of recommendations that you have provided, particularly around the work that you do very closely at Dobbins with Dr. Damon and with all the CTE students. And I heard you talk about, the 9th grade students as well, because we particularly today looked at data that focused in on the 19 or 20% of the 12th graders that are involved with these programs. So we're going to look to your testimony as a point of a source of recommendation as we move forward. So I just wanted to thank all the witnesses who hung in there with us. I know this was a very long hearing, but I simply wanted to say thank you. Know that all of your input and your feedback will really help us to inform the work that we focus on moving into the spring session and as we proceed from an education standpoint in our city. So thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair, and to all the members of the Committee on Education for your indulgence this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Well, yes, and thank you very much, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. This has been a really important conversation, and I think it will continue. So I know that I had a number of questions for Theron Pride and the office, but I think it's good for us to start here and then continue on and expand our work together in this area, because this issue of saving our young people's lives is the most important thing that we can do right now, especially with all that's going on and with schools being virtual for the foreseeable coming weeks. So I want to thank our sponsor, Catherine Gilmore Richardson. I want to thank all the panelists for your tremendous expertise and testimony, and a huge note of gratitude to to Kaylee, to her teachers and her loved ones who just gave such a spectacular testimony earlier. To the clerk, is there anyone else here who would like to testify on either of the resolutions that have been brought forward?
There are no others signed up for testimony today.
Great. Seeing none, this concludes this hearing on these resolutions, and the committee will be, and this hearing will be called to the discretion of the chair. Thank you, everybody.